Welcome, everybody. I know it's been a while since we posted. It's been a couple weeks. I apologize for that, but we are back. But we're back with some big changes. This will be the very last episode of Two Geeks and a Noob as a podcast. Instead, starting next week, we are shifting to the Geeks and Noobs podcast because we realize it's not about us, it's about you guys. So, a lot of changes are coming. The first one being that episodes will now get clipped up for YouTube. So the whole episode won't be on YouTube. Just highlights and clips of it will be on YouTube starting next week. And those will go up on Fridays. Also, we've got a lot of things coming to our Twitch channel. Like, I'm going to start gaming next week. So we'll have games on there. You can come watch me be absolutely terrible at games and comment and make fun of me, and it'll be a blast. We're also considering doing a wrestling podcast for all my wrestling fans out there. And just more stuff focused around what you guys want. So the Twitch channel name has changed. We are now the Geeks and Noobs on Twitch. Starting next week, there will be a new playlist here on YouTube for the Geeks and Noobs. And it'll be episode 1, and it's a very special episode. It's our Halloween episode. So it'll be lots of fun. So this is our last Two Geeks and a Noob podcast. It's a really long one. You may want to watch it in pieces. It's 3.5 hours long. Lily and I just go off on tangents, but it's a really good time. Everybody had a lot of fun in chat. So go check it out and leave a comment. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when new episodes of the Geeks and Noobs podcast is coming out. Thanks, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Geeks and a New podcast. It is episode 18, and we are live here on Twitch. As always, you can come join the conversation on Twitch at twitch.tv/Two Geeks and a Noob. First off, I'd like to say that Two Geeks and a Noob is brought to you by Ray's Energy Drink. It is the absolute best tasting and best working without any kind of aftertaste or hangover or bad feelings in the end of the day. I'm not an energy drink drinker because they usually make me feel like crap. This one makes me feel great. I feel energized, but not panicky. So if you're looking for a really good energy drink, if you're in Twitch right now, I just posted a link for you to get 15% off Ray's Energy Drinks. I highly recommend them. If you are on YouTube, that link will always be in the description of every video. Welcome back. We are back. We took a little bit of a sabbatical last week. Lily was unfortunately so far under the weather, she was in hell. And I was also in a weird spot, still recovering from my trip from New York, in which I'm on the same coast. It shouldn't have been a big deal, but it was just weird. So we went with we played a past episode that Lily and I did on Star Wars. And so that was up. I will get those posted to YouTube. Like I said, things have been weird. We're a little bit behind, but there's going to be some more big changes coming very soon. Also, everybody who follows here on Twitch, keep an eye out on your notifications because very, very soon, within the next week or two, I'm going to start playing games on the Twitch channel as well. And maybe occasionally Lily can join in and commentate with me, maybe even play. So I'm going
to give him so much shit.
Oh, yeah, because when it comes to games, I'll end up being the noob because I haven't played games in so long. It's literally going to be just shitty gameplay that everybody can mock the whole time. So that'll be a lot of fun. Monster says, I've suddenly have been overcome by an unquenchable thirst. How does it pair with gin or vodka? For legal reasons, I can't tell you that it does or doesn't. I have no idea. Guys, I don't even actually drink, so I really don't know.
Oh wow, did not know that.
Yeah, I'm just not an alcohol person. It's just
wouldn't have figured. I am.
Hey, Pilot, thank you. You get a dancing penguin for your follow. Much appreciated. By the way, guys, before we get started, we will be talking DC Fandome, which was the big event this past weekend. I'll also go over New York Comic Con a little bit because we never really got to talk about it. But we are at 29 followers right now on Twitch. That means we are 21 away from 50. At 50, we hit affiliate. Once we hit affiliate, this helps out Lily and I very, very much because then we can start doing subscriptions. People can help donate and add to the cause, which only helps us grow even more. we're looking to grow the team. Like I said, some major changes are coming. I'm adding things. Future and I, we talked about a wrestling podcast. So that's going to be coming down the road. We've got, like I said, the gameplay coming up. We've got more stuff on YouTube. I was going to do, and I put this on TikTok, and I feel so bad for my followers, all 4,000 of them. And of the 4,030 saw the video. I was going to do a breakdown of the Batman trailer that we will discuss today. I wasn't able to get to it. I will try and get to it by the weekend. Of course, by then everybody and their mother will have done one, but oh well. But we will be talking about that. So before we get to DC Fandome, New York Comic-Con, I just want to say it was great. It was scaled back because of everything that's been going on. Obviously, this was the first big convention to really go down in America. It was still really cool. Finally getting to meet Straw Hat Goofy in person was really cool as well. He's a good guy. We follow each other on TikTok. If you're not following him, you should. He's a really good guy. He just got back from the Eternals premiere out in California.
Yes.
So congrats to him. But yeah, that's actually the point of us growing this channel is so that Lily and I get to do these same type of experiences, for you guys to experience with us.
Just a reminder, we don't make any money from doing this.
Yeah.
We are just two super dorky individuals who cannot contain our dorkiness, our nerdiness when it comes to fandoms, movies, all the fun stuff. So your support is greatly appreciated. And hopefully one day, we will get to be professional dorks, professional nerds. I mean, Vince is basically already there, but I'm like, just here geeking. The fact that he went to New York Comic-Con. I've never been to Comic-Con, ever.
Yeah, and that's something we're going to have to rectify as well.
Yeah.
So again, guys, we appreciate all the support when it comes down to us hitting affiliate and the subscriptions. I understand that paying for this may seem a little weird, $4.99 a month, but we will be adding stuff. We're going to add
Absolutely
blooper reels, unique podcast, and like the Star Wars one that I put up last week. That is something.
There's so much content already of me just being an absolute idiot and slipping up with my words and losing my shit because anxiety.
Yeah, and the money that comes into this will just literally go back into the process and into the work to make it better for you guys.
Exactly.
So consider this is your podcast as much as it is ours.
Yes.
And we greatly appreciate that. So, like I said, New York Comic-Con was great. I've actually because there wasn't a lot of interviews available in person. However, thankfully, like I've got interviews lined up Friday morning. I've got some from next Monday. In fact, the ones next Monday, if all goes well, I'll be talking to the voice actors for Animaniacs, which is huge. Right? Robert Paulson, all those guys. I'm really excited about that because Animaniacs was a huge part of my, middle school and in high school years, just because it was just a very great show. And then on top of that, it's been brought back for a whole new generation. I'm excited about that. But there's other stuff going on. Like the Friday, it'll be there's a new adult animated series on Amazon coming out called Fairfax. I'll be talking to the cast and creators of that. All that stuff will be up on the YouTube channel. And like I said, as soon as we start getting to where you can subscribe, if you are a subscriber each month, that stuff will be exclusive to you. So there are perks involved. We also talked about a Patreon, but that's something down the road as well.
Yeah.
So
in the near future, I think it's safe to expect that y'all will be thoroughly entertained by the gag reels and random content of us being weirdos. So.
Exactly. We're also
but we're hopeful. I would love to get merch in the future. Like
yes, that's something down the line too. That we've already talked about that. I do believe Jess will also be on the interview in future, so I will ask about that walk-in impression if I have time. Yeah, merch is something else that we want to do. I've already got several designs and some inside jokes that will go up. Things that catch fire will make merch, and that's something else. You guys can rock your favorite Two Geeks and a Noob stuff, so that'll be great as well. So let's get on to DC Fandome. So this started last year. Of course, in the pandemic, they couldn't go to conventions. San Diego Comic-Con got canceled. New York Comic-Con got canceled. WizardCon in Chicago, they all got canceled. Everything worldwide. So DC decided to create their own virtual convention to show off things, and even with everything being shut down production wise, they had a lot to show off last year.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that this year wasn't as packed. Last year it was 2 days. This year it was one. It was only 4 hours. And besides the first official The Batman trailer, which was pretty awesome, and we will go into that in detail. A lot of the other stuff was a lot of just, hey, we're just getting started on this project. We don't even have it in production yet, but we're going to talk about it. Like Batgirl and Wonder Woman
We got a whole
3.
lot of
And
nothing.
yeah, kind of. A lot of
Kinda.
a lot of teases. There was stuff that, like, the stuff we're going to discuss today, um, is stuff we talked about. Like, the one thing I didn't send Lily was the Aquaman 2 stuff, and that's because this is the only time I'm going to mention Aquaman 2 because I'm still upset over a certain cast member being on that cast when they shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even be in Hollywood. But let's start with how they started, and that was with Black Adam. They opened up with the Black Adam stuff, and again, we got literally just a what 30-second clip
I
from
think
that
it was a
film.
minute, but it's just an action sequence, really,
Yeah, it was
to
just
create
a.
the suspense.
But what's great
Whole lot
about this,
of nothing.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson has been attached to play Black Adam for over 11 years.
Mm.
This has been a true passion project of his, and to see it finally get off the ground and with a really good cast, I think, like, the biggest nod besides having Dwayne the Rock Johnson, who I love so much, and he is one of the few wrestlers in this world that I have not unfortunately not gotten to meet or talk to, but that I want to meet and talk to. Let me clarify that. Um, they're having Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. Like, Dr. Fate is one of those characters for me that I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan, but I've also been a huge Dr. Fate fan for years. And Dr. Fate has gone through many different iterations. In fact, when I got into Dr. Fate in the late 80s, early 90s, there was the almost controversial move to make it a female. That when they finally removed the helmet, it turned out it was a woman and not a man.
Oh,
And that was one of the interesting things. And that was the big controversy of the time,
mm-hmm.
was making this character female instead of male, which nowadays we openly accept that. Well,
Who would be your ideal casting if they did not have Pierce Brosnan?
see, that's hard because Pierce Brosnan was my ideal casting.
Oh wow.
Like, he was literally I'm like, I thought Pierce Brosnan or David Tennant was the other one.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
He's somebody I
I
feel like.
I think I might surprise you with this one, but I really wanted Cillian Murphy to be Dr. Fate, and he's not as old,
Well, that's
but
the thing. Dr. Fate doesn't have to be old. There are times when Dr. Fate is quite young. So that I can see that one would have worked, I think. Yeah,
I,
I could see that. I could see that. That would have worked. I'm trying to think of anybody else that might have done a really good job.
or how about this? Who would you want to be the female alternate or female casting?
Oh,
I
well,
haven't put much thought into that. Okay,
uh,
now I am.
Helen Mirren, I will put in anything.
That's interesting because she
She
is.
is coming up in the yeah. We're gonna get to her later. She's in
Yeah.
the new Shazam movie, which will eventually, that franchise will tie in with Black Adam,
Mm-hmm.
obviously because they are of the same uh, storyline. But I don't think her character will make it. I don't think her character in that movie will make it past that movie. I think it'll be like a one and done, very similar to most villains. It's kind of a one and done kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What about Doctor Strange Fate future? We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the amalgamation. No, I'm kidding. Doctor Strange Fate, interesting character. And actually, there's something I kind of want to touch on. We are talking a lot of DC today, but Marvel did put out, I think it was yesterday, something that shows that DC is actually canon to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There was a extended clip from Eternal shown where Fauci's son says, it's a clip we've all seen in the trailer, like, oh, I saw him on TV with the laser eye beams and the cape. And Icarus goes, I don't wear a cape. But the full scene, he goes, oh, that's Superman. I saw him on TV with the cape. And so apparently the fictional DC comics exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was a very interesting tie-in. And apparently, luckily the people I follow did not spoil it, but they did tease that there may be another DC nod somewhere in that movie as well. So
Interesting, yes. Surprising, I don't think so. Especially considering that, well, I mean, we have Peter Parker, who has made or attempted to make movie references in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, how can a world without those superheroes, or at least one major comic book company, how can someone's perception of what it or idea of what it means to be a hero exist without DC or Marvel in the first place?
well, what's interesting about that is I actually New Rockstars actually touched on this, and I liked his thought process here. In the real world where we live, although this could be a simulation, who knows? The Matrix is real. Anyways, we have comic book heroes because that's a fantastical form of escapism. It's something that doesn't exist. But do you still have comic books in a world where superheroes are literally flying around on the daily, where alien invasions happen all the time? So would a Superman comic exist? Now we know that there were some comic books back when Captain America was in the first Avenger in the 40s, but those were not comic books in the sense of here's a superhero to make you escape. It was more, this is war propaganda. We're going to push our golden boy and let you guys know that we're going to win this war. So, and we've got Deadpool. In the comics, yes, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. There was some DC stuff. There was a Miles Morales Spider-Man comic book where they tease Superman. There's been crossovers before the 90s crossover, and they've constantly kind of like in the comics left teasers for each other. But again, is there a market for comic books when superheroes are real? So it's interesting that there is still some form of pop culture Superman reference in the Eternals. I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Let's go back to how the fact that I can talk. Let's go back to Dwayne Johnson and
Yes.
how this is a project for him, and this has been long in the making for him. Honestly, I'm a little nervous about Black Adam just because Dwayne Johnson has made a name for himself, or at least as he called himself in SNL once upon a time, as franchise Viagra, where he as an actor, performer, pretty much exists to bring more hype to action movies. And I think my fear is just that that will downplay everything with Black Adam coming out now. I'm scared that I'm going to walk into this movie with an expectation that it's going to be something bigger and better than what we've seen The Rock in the past, and it won't meet those expectations, or it will just feel like more of the same. I don't want to be overwhelmed by this or underwhelmed by this movie, but
Yeah.
I could definitely see that happening.
Well, that's one of the reasons that Marvel, and people don't realize this, there's a reason that Marvel didn't go after humongous names when they started. Robert Downey Jr. was a big name, but he had fallen out of grace and was just starting to rebuild his career. Chris Evans was not, his casting was so controversial back in the day of Captain America. You know, up until recently, one of the biggest names they had was Edward Norton, and that didn't even work out.
Don Cheadle.
But Don Cheadle wasn't a huge name.
True. And
You know,
the big stars that they did cast, I mean, aren't They're supporting roles most of the time.
Yeah, we're talking, it isn't until recently that we're seeing stuff, like Benedict Cumberbatch, who is a big name, but I think when cast as Doctor Strange wasn't as big as he is now. But now you've got like Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie in the Eternals.
Hmm.
You've got some Academy Award winning names coming into the MCU because now they've grounded themselves to the point where instead of that star power pulling away from the actual product, it's only going to enhance it. Whereas before, and this is the concern you have with Black Adam, does his name set an expectation they cannot meet?
Hmm.
Or does his name pull you out of the project because all you're going to see on the screen is The Rock? Because now I'll give The Rock a lot of credit. I always will. He's amazing. And like I never felt like say Jumanji. I didn't feel like I was watching The Rock and Kevin Hart banter. I felt like they were their characters. They did a really good job.
Hmm.
Jungle Cruise, that one felt a little bit more like Emily Blunt and The Rock playing. Like, still a good movie.
Hmm.
And it's kind of, I guess, the problem that people had with Free Guy, which I finally got around to watching, was that there was an expectation of this dirty, over the top Ryan Reynolds type character, and then Free Guy is just this cute, heartwarming, innocent movie.
Yeah.
And that's why people didn't like it, but I loved it. I
Mhm.
love that movie. It was so good. It's cute, but that's not what people expect from Ryan Reynolds anymore. They
Yeah.
expect Deadpool in everything.
Yeah.
And so that's, to the detriment of Ryan Reynolds, which is why he's literally said he's taking a break until he films Deadpool 3.
So it just begs the question, what are they going to do with Black Adam, this movie, to show us that strong character development? How far are they going to push the separation between celebrity and role? What expectations in terms of storyline do you have for this film?
Well, I think a lot of people have mentioned that, that The Rock plays The Rock very well, or you have a hard time seeing Black Adam. You see The Rock. And I get that. Why is my TikTok blowing up with shit I don't care about? Somebody's going live that I don't even know. Um, so I think that what's going to help this film is the fact that you have the Justice Society of America in it. So it isn't focused, the whole movie isn't just Black Adam, which is in your face. You're going to have to deal with Hawkman and Dr. Fate and Atom Smasher and Cyclone. You're going to have these characters. There's going to be an interaction. There's going to be, and I think going back to Jumanji, what helped that film? An ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm. Comedy.
Yeah. And also, so in this case, I don't expect the Black Adam movie to be that funny. I
Mm-hmm.
do expect there to be some one-liners and some, quips here and there, but for the most part, it's a darker film. But by having an ensemble cast, a cast that can carry themselves, i.e., Pierce Brosnan, Hodge, she's playing Hawkman, which I'm super excited for.
Hmm. And I just want to say really quickly, because I don't know what to expect. I didn't do much research into Black Adam or this movie before this podcast, so shame on me. But and for me, there's no Hawkman without Hawk Girl, and I'm gonna be just a little disappointed if we don't see Hawk Girl in this movie.
I
So
don't think we're going to get her in this movie, and I understand where
yeah,
that comes from because a lot of people grew up on the animated series where it's both of them. Then you
yep.
have Legends of Tomorrow, which it's both of them. And their stories are obviously intertwined. However, Hawkman has existed for much longer than Hawkgirl has. And I've been a fan of Hawkman for a very long time. A lot of people are out there shitting on Hawkman and they're very pissed that Hawkgirl won't be in this. But the reality is, Hawkman, especially back in the day, which this is going to be leaning on older versions of these characters because it's JSA, which is an older thing. Hawkman was a badass, like straight up hardcore badass. And I don't think he's been represented fairly in, say, animation and in the CW shows.
Yep.
So I appreciate that they're not bringing Hawk Girl in because now you can have him actually shine and lead to
I can
Hawk Girl
appreciate
later
that.
on,
Yeah.
including if he shines well enough, you could lead to a Hawkman Hawk Girl spin-off film.
Yes.
And
I mean,
now,
that's the dream for me, but I
yeah,
mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I could certainly appreciate that perspective.
I believe it was the 80s. I believe it was late 80s when Hawkgirl showed up. It might be 90s. But here's the thing. Warner Brothers has finally, instead of trying so hard to be the opposite of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're now understanding and taking cues from it. And they're starting to put things on HBO Max similar to how, they're doing Disney Plus and Marvel. You've got Blue Beetle coming to HBO Max. You got Batgirl coming to HBO Max. Lily just wants to be Hawkgirl. True.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Talk about a dream role right
you've
there.
got the Gotham PD show, which will be a spinoff of the Batman series or the Batman movie on HBO Max. You got Peacemaker, which we will talk about later, coming to a spinoff from the Suicide Squad. So we could get a Hawkman, Hawkgirl, either series or film on HBO Max, depending on how well this character is received from the movie. So they're starting to kind of get it. I think Warner Brothers is finally starting to understand.
Absolutely. So okay, so I guess we've switched to this as a topic now. If we ever do see a Hawkman movie series, TV series, or one that might feature Hawkgirl as well, or if it's a storyline for the two of them, and if I was casting this, I would cast a black man and a black woman, and that's just immediately where my head went after everyone joked that I wanted to be Hawkgirl. Even though it is a dream role, I do not believe that I am the right person, solely on the basis of my skin color.
Well, I think with the casting they have now, who is playing Hawkman, is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get his name exactly right because I don't want to screw that up.
If you know
Aldis Hodge.
comic books,
Aldis Hodge. Now, in the comic books, they're portrayed as white for the most part, but the fact that they do have
these are two people from Egypt.
Well, they're not even from Egypt, and let me explain that further. I was just getting ready to get there. So their characters then have a deep Egyptian reincarnation storyline. However, they're actually not even human. They're from a whole other planet, and they're from a whole other dimension. And so they're cops on their planet, on their world. They came to Earth and started this reincarnation process via, in Egypt, but they are not human.
Yes.
So,
but I don't see that as an excuse to cast.
No.
Those roles.
The reason that I say that I would go with a person of color as well, just because it would make sense that when they came to Earth, they went to a place where they would look similar. So that's why they ended up in Egypt. But they were, I mean, how much media are Egyptians? They look like just tan white people almost all the time. Like it happens all the time, and that's because a lot of that has to do with, and of course there are white people in Egypt. We know that there are light colored, people in Egypt. We know that, but like most of the time we equate that to the fact that they are Northern African, closer to the Middle East. So they tend to look more like Middle Eastern people, which is fine. But even then, that's not white people that are just tan. But in media for decades and decades and decades, they've always been like, oh, we'll just put some spray tan on some white people and we'll call them Egyptian. And that's part of that also is because when people look at ancient hieroglyphics, the paint...
Hieroglyphs, not hieroglyphics. You know better.
No, hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphs, not hieroglyphics. And I will fight you to the end of the day of this.
Okay, so when they look at hieroglyphics, the paintings you see and all that, they're painted with a lighter tone, but that's because of it's not because of anything other than the fact of just how they made paint back then. So it's also wear and tear over time and whatnot, fading, stuff like that. Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra. Yeah.
What's her face in The Mummy way back when? As a reincarnated version of
Rachel Weisz. Rachel Weisz, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, love her to death.
Oh,
love
I do
The
too.
Mummy.
Yeah, she's amazing. And that the first Mummy movie is close to perfection when it comes to an action film. Mm-hmm. But I do believe we could get a Hawkman series and even a Dr. Fate series. I know that what's his name? The guy playing Atom Smasher. I can't say his. He's got a very long name. Noah Sentient. What is it? Maybe if I read it, I can
Do
actually
you want
say
me to
it.
pull it up on Google?
Noah Sentient Centino, whatever his name is.
Paste it in the chat and I'll correct you.
Noah Centineo. Noah Centineo.
Centineo?
Centineo, thank you. Noah Centineo. He is playing Atom Smasher, and the whole point of casting him was purely to develop the character and have a spinoff. Like that was talked about back when he was first cast.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, right after he was cast, he had some controversy. Fortunately for him, there's been a lot of time that has passed because of the pandemic that people have kind of forgotten about it.
What's the controversy? Catch me up.
It had something to do with like, not sexual harassment, but like a kind of like absurd sexual take on something. Like he said something on Instagram or something, or he said something to somebody that got put on Instagram or something like that. It was something like where he had a really bad misogynistic take on something.
Huh.
Actually, let me see if I can find the actual controversy. Let's talk about it. Why not?
Deep dive into celebrity drama. I'm not about that. I kind of hate that I asked.
So he defended Logan Paul in something.
About what?
That's how he got canceled.
Huh. I mean,
cancel culture is becoming an issue. There are a lot of people are just taking this way too far. Let me see what happened. he retweeted something about the Suicide Forest story.
Excuse me.
No, I think he somehow defended Logan Paul for that terrible. See, Logan Paul got canceled, and obviously he didn't get canceled because he's back and making more money than ever.
Well, I was gonna say I think Logan Paul has had the most successful comeback of all of the people canceled.
Okay, that's dumb. All right, so
dumb to say that he had he's still.
No, I'm not talking about what you said. I'm not talking about what you said. I said the reason that Noah got canceled was dumb.
Okay.
Did what he did was stupid? Yes, he retweeted. So Logan Paul put out a 2018 best of year.
Uh-huh.
And in that year was the year that he did that stupid thing about going to the suicide forest, finding somebody literally hung there, and making a video and making fun of the person who had killed themselves. He literally showed a dead body in the suicide forest in Japan, and that was what Logan Paul did.
Yep.
Noah. So at the end of the year, Logan Paul put out a tweet. It was a 2018 retrospective. He's, oh man, 2018, what a crazy year. And it's like, dude, it wasn't crazy. You did something really stupid and really wrong. But Noah retweeted that with like a thumbs up or a happy face or something. And he got canceled for liking Logan Paul's 2018 retrospective. Was that stupid? Yes. That was dumb on his part. Is that cancel worthy? No. Why are you trying to end this guy's career because he made it?
And for the record, I don't think that you should just cancel a person because you dislike them. Was it an absolutely shitty thing that he did? Yes. Was Noah Centineo's response to that probably not thought through, probably misinterpreted?
Yeah,
I don't know.
He was supporting a friend and he didn't think it through.
Yeah. Emojis are so freaking subjective too.
That you don't cancel somebody over that. Jesus. All right. No, so that was stupid. Okay, so this is my point. Like that's and people have forgotten about it now.
I'm not defending him. I'm just like, as a person who struggles to express emotion through text, I highly rely on emojis too. And even my emojis get misinterpreted. I come across as a condescending bitch to my family because I don't use the right emoji.
Exactly. That's okay. That's again. So not really a controversy, just more. So this is my issue with cancel culture. It's because people are immediately like, oh, he did something stupid. Let's ruin his entire livelihood for the rest of his life. No, there are people who deserve to be canceled. There are. And then there are people who get canceled who don't deserve it at all. So let's dial it back. Yeah. Let's dial it back, people. So yeah, so no real controversy there. He just luckily time has passed and people have forgotten about it, and he's working again, and he never got in trouble. Like Hollywood didn't give a shit; they still cast him in things. Nobody boycotted, so whatever. So he's fine. So there's no controversy there. The idea is, again, the reason he was cast was they want to do an Atom Smasher spinoff. So we know they're going to get at least one spinoff. When you have Pierce Brosnan, I'm sure Dr. Fate's performance, you're going to see people call for a spinoff there because you're going to get a very interesting character.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get it's so funny because in chat they're talking about how text is a terrible form of communication as they text in chat. Oh, the irony. Anyways, so yes, I think Black Adam will be great. I have all the faith in the world in this passion project of Johnson's. There's a reason it has taken so long to get off the ground. He's wanted the script to be perfect. He's wanted the right director. He's wanted the right people behind it, the right people casting. And so I have faith that this is going to be a good film. Will it be a billion-dollar franchise? I don't know. That I don't know.
I think it's safe to have high hopes, especially because we are rooting for more BIPOC representation in the media, in Hollywood.
And The Rock represents two groups. You know, he represents African Americans and he represents Polynesians, which is great. So that's great. And then we have a person of color playing Hawkman. We have a person of color playing Cyclone. We have the great Pierce Brosnan, who's good in everything.
We're starting to see the change that we want to see, and that is awesome. It's especially it's great coming from a major franchise.
Yeah, for sure.
We all hope that indie directors, that writers everywhere will follow the direction of the big franchises, because if the franchises are making money, everyone else will copy because everyone else wants to make money. So
yeah. So jumping from Black Adam, let's jump into Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
Yeah.
So I don't believe we'll see Black Adam appear in this movie. I do believe there will be.
I highly doubt it.
No, I do believe there will be a nod though, because supposedly they're supposed to go at each other in the third Shazam film.
Yeah.
Supposedly. But Fury of the Gods, I think, looks really good.
Yes. Can't wait for Helen Mirren.
Yeah, you've got Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu as your villains.
Lucy Liu. Oh my gosh. I have so much respect for the both of them. I can't express how excited I am to see Lucy Liu in another action film. She's
going to be great.
Yeah.
And of course Helen Mirren can do no wrong. What I love,
well, okay. I've got one bone to pick. Just one bone to pick with Helen Mirren. I come
ladies
from
and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, prepare to cancel Lily. Go on.
I love her to death as a person from San Jose, California, who absolutely loves the Winchester Mystery House. I did not enjoy the Winchester movie.
Oh, I've not seen
I'm not a horror person in general, so that played a big part into it, but I did not agree with the portrayal of Mrs. Winchester in that movie. So I think I'll go in detail another day about this, but that's the one thing.
Well, here's what we'll do, Lily. I will actually watch the movie, and then you and I can actually discuss it, because I find that whole story fascinating.
Yes, and I know a lot of the history.
Yeah, so do I. I
dive into this.
I didn't even know there was a movie, so I will look that up. We will watch it. We can dive into that. That'll be a supplemental podcast that will be for subscribers only.
Yes.
So
okay, moving on.
Yeah,
that's my one issue with Helen Mirren. That's literally it.
We see that the Shazam family has kind of gotten upgrades in their costumes, and that comes from them learning more about themselves and their powers, because their suits obviously come from their powers. So knowing that they're getting upgrades in their costumes means they're upgrades in their abilities. We've also saw there's a quick shot of the lair where they've now decked it out with like neon lights and arcade games and stuff, and they've done all this stuff to make the Rock of Eternity their home.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting Helen Mirren as Hespera, and we're getting Lucy Liu as Calypso. Holy crap! We're getting griffins and cyclopses and centaurs and all this ancient. And I'm a huge Greek mythology buff. I absolutely love that stuff. So now we're going to be getting that in that's kind of the base of this character. Shazam's power. It's Solomon, Hermes, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, Mercury. I believe I got those right.
I don't have them memorized. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
This is my noob moment.
It's okay. But they're all Greek and Roman gods.
Mm-hmm.
Or demigods or heroes of those times. Because Achilles is not a god.
Yeah.
But so getting this tie-in and I really liked the first film, but I also understand where a lot of people had issues with it because you had a villain with no depth, really. As much as I love Mark Strong, I love Mark Strong. Bawled my eyes out in the second Kingsman movie when he stepped on that landmine. Love Mark Strong. I think he's great. Unfortunately, he hasn't had the best run in superhero movies. Because he was a perfect Sinestro that was completely wasted in that horrible Green Lantern movie.
I haven't even seen the Green Lantern movie.
Yeah, don't waste your time. It's to the point where Taika Waititi and Ryan Reynolds act like they've never met before Free Guy.
Okay.
Like they literally in all their interviews are like, "Oh, it's so great to finally work with Taika." It's like, weren't you guys in Green Lantern together? And they're like, "What's that? What are you talking about?" Like, and Ryan Reynolds, of course, did that whole thing in Deadpool 2 where he shot Ryan Reynolds in the back of the head. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a terrible movie, and even he knows it.
But all to say, we see the potential there.
Shinso, thank you for the sub. You got a dancing penguin all for yourself.
Thank you for subscribing. So going back, all to say that I think we both have really high hopes for this movie. Not just because of the fantastic casting, but because we want to see more of that character development. We want to see better writing. And I want to know your thoughts on this. I am expecting this movie to be what I would hope to see in a Wonder Woman movie.
Yes.
Because of the Greek mythology, because of the significance of the characters that, shaped Wonder Woman into who she is. That's what I felt was missing from the first Wonder Woman movie. I didn't even bother seeing the second one because I have very direct issues.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman 84 is shit.
Yeah.
I'm actually not even a fan of the first Wonder Woman movie. I understand what it did for the industry and what it did for female characters, and I understand, but I did not like the movie. The second one was garbage. So bad. And there was no consequences for anybody except for Wonder Woman, and even then, not so much. And we're not going to go into that. That's another supplemental podcast we'll do where we completely tear down that movie.
Yeah. And we can't say anything about Wonder Woman 3 because we have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
So
all we know is that Linda Carter wrote a song about Wonder Woman that's coming out in November. That's all we got from that. They're making the movie Wonder Woman 3. She's going to be in it. Linda Carter is as Asteria. But that's all we know. Real quick, our latest follower has commented for the first time, and I believe The Rock wasn't a great choice as Black Adam for me. And that is an interesting take. And I would like to know, as we discuss further about Shazam, who do you think would have been a better Black Adam than The Rock? And I have heard this argument before, and I can understand where people are coming from. But I do think The Rock will play a great Black Adam. However, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think, or who do you think would have been a better?
In future, specifically, what animated Wonder Woman movie are you talking about? Because when I think of animated Wonder Woman movies, the first that comes to mind isn't even Wonder Woman herself. I can't think of any. Maybe I haven't seen it. I'd like to know, but I think of Flashpoint.
Oh my God, that's a great animated series.
Good.
There isn't a Wonder Woman movie. Now that you have my HBO Max login, because
Wait, do it?
Yeah, I gave it to you. You have your own thing on there. Do I gotta send it to you again?
Probably.
Jesus.
I'm sorry.
But on there's a DC section, and in there is the Wonder Woman animated series, and it is a good movie.
Okay.
I think it's a better film than the first Wonder Woman movie by far.
Mm.
So Shinso says we need Zack Snyder back. That's an interesting take. I don't know. I liked Zack Snyder's Justice League a lot. It was 4 hours it was too long, and it was because they put every single scene that he had filmed in it, which had he not been let go from the first film and he had been able to edit it, what he would have edited together out of that 4 hours would have been a much better Justice League film. That being said, I don't know if his take on Wonder Woman would have worked or on a lot of other characters. And that comes not from the movies necessarily, but that comes from his take on things that I've seen in interviews, where he wants to take things so dark and so gritty that it goes beyond what these characters should be. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm a fan of Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's first off a million times better than what Josh Whedon did.
Yes, that's undeniable. I've got the opinion that Zack Snyder should retire as an action movie director and find other more interesting projects. That's not to say that superhero movies aren't inherently interesting, but I'm kind of done. Like, I don't want to see any more of the same from him. And I would love to see what he does with more dynamic, more flawed characters. Because trying to take, these comic book characters that we all know very well and love to death, I don't want him to ruin it anymore for me.
You know what I would like to see from him? If he's stuck in superheroes, it's to create his own. Do a completely original character and do that. Now, Future just mentioned, I think Snyder should stick to zombie movies. Here's the thing. I would have said that before Army of the Dead came out. His Day of the Dead and those movies were fantastic. He did a phenomenal job with those. Army of the Dead, however, was fucking horrible.
I haven't seen either. So.
Don't bother. Army of the Dead is garbage. And I think that's why he's kind of stepped away, period. And he's now, I do believe his next project is a very different than what he's done before. And I think that that's going to be good for him, is to kind of get out of the bubble he's been in. And Shinso, I'm not saying you by any stretch of the imagination, but the cult-like Snyderverse fans have gotten so toxic that he needs to step away from everything and go into a whole new thing, because he's not having the best of luck. Like Sucker Punch is interesting, but not a good movie.
Also haven't seen, so.
Yeah, it's visually stunning, but that's the thing. I actually like Watchmen, but you have to find the right director's cut. There's more than one director's cut.
Yep.
I like the one. So I did like Watchmen, although I think the HBO series Watchmen that came out I think it was last year, is way better.
Yeah.
So I think he needs to focus on something else for a while. Man of Steel is great. I love Man of Steel. I love that. I thought it was a great story. It didn't lean on the previous versions of the Christopher Reeves movies like they tried to do with Superman Returns.
It was appropriate for the time.
Yeah.
And for where we were at in terms of how Superman was previously represented in movies and TV series. I think Man of Steel absolutely worked when it was released. I don't care to see the same thing again.
We also got a hairy-chested Superman, which is always a good thing.
I mean, I don't have a preference, but and I don't care to comment more on that, just as long as Superman is a decent Superman.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I almost said a decent human being, but he's not a human being.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it.
Do not comment. Come on, man.
Lily does not like hairy chest.
I didn't say that at all. I said I don't have a preference. And why?
Everybody can read between the lines.
I'm not gonna get into my dating history with this one.
No, that's a whole different podcast.
How about we don't go?
Get us a 50, subscribe to our channel, and we may even go into this. Here's the thing.
Not making any promises.
The reason that I'm so excited about a hairy chest Superman literally comes down to the Death of Superman storyline, which was why Henry Cavill didn't shave his chest. He read the comic books, The Death of Superman from the 93 series, and saw that George Perez had drawn Superman with a hairy chest. And so it was an homage to that great storyline. So I really appreciate that.
Moving on.
So, but back to Shazam, Fury of the Gods. We don't know a whole lot of what's happening other than the fact that the existence of the Shazam family is calling these gods down to earth. And it's supposed to be a very big step up. You know how most sequels are, we got to crank it up to 11 kind of thing. This one is supposed to be a much more action-oriented film, hopefully done in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
We'll see. I of all the action or superhero action movies that are coming out in the near future, I have highest hopes for Shazam, highest expectations for Shazam. Like I said before, I'm going to be approaching it as if it is how I would want the Wonder Woman movie to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll see if the Wonder Woman movies in the future mimic the Shazam movies, if they are success or continue to be successful. So
yeah, I am curious to know what's going to exactly happen in Wonder Woman 3, just because I don't know where that story goes, in all honesty, but again, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. Let's shift over to Batman.
Nope, not yet.
Not yet?
You're jumping the gun. We have one more to discuss.
Are we saving Batman for last?
Batman is last.
Okay.
Just like DC Fandome saved him for the end, we're going to save him for the end as well.
Okay.
But we will be touching on Batman in a way, because now we're going to talk about the Flash movie. And the Flashpoint Paradox that you mentioned before is the rough basis of this movie. There's obviously a lot of changes, because there's a lot of things you can't do. But it is very loosely based on the Flashpoint Paradox, where Barry goes back and saves his mother, causing a cataclysm throughout time, both in the past and the future. But in this case, we're getting two Barry Allens, as we saw from the clip.
We saw two. We don't know if we're gonna get any more.
I don't know if they're gonna do more. God, I hope they don't, because then it's gonna get convoluted. We are getting Supergirl, which I find fascinating, and we are getting
what they do there.
We're getting two Batmans, because Ben Affleck's Batman is returning for this film, albeit supposedly in a short role. But we're also getting the return of Michael Keaton as Batman, which is huge. Yeah, so the voiceover that you hear talking to Barry in the clip is Michael Keaton. And that
I can't believe I didn't.
And the cowl you see, that back of Batman's head you see, that is Michael Keaton's Batman cowl.
I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah.
Granted, I only watched the trailer once, but holy crap.
Yeah, so that's Michael Keaton talking, and that at the very end of the clip where he's pulling something off what looks like a car, it's the original 1989 Batmobile. They don't show it on purpose, but so Michael Keaton's return is not a one and done either. Supposedly, Michael Keaton will become almost the Nick Fury of the DCEU. He will be
interesting.
He'll be there in a mentor capacity for multiple heroes. He's going to be doing this more often, which is great. And if you, for those that saw the clip, there's the one scene where you see Barry in his suit, the other Barry with longer hair in a makeshift Flash suit. That makeshift Flash suit is an old Batman 89 suit, spray painted red and yellow. And then to their left, our right, was Supergirl. We don't get a lot because this movie is still early in production, so we don't get a ton out of it. So Straw Hat Goofy did have a good theory on the Flash, that this could be adding the Flash of Two Worlds mixed with Flashpoint Paradox storylines. The Flash of Two Worlds was the first time DC really dove into the multiversal side of their comic books, because you had the Jay Garrett Flash, then all of a sudden you had Barry Allen Flash, but he was in a different universe. And so they finally brought them together with a multiversal crossover called Flash of Two Worlds. Now, this won't be Jay Garrett. It's another Barry Allen. They've already confirmed that. there are tons of, all we can do is speculate because they're keeping it tightly under wraps. But there is concern that either main continuity Barry Allen, the one from the Justice League films, the one that's at the forefront of this movie, is
Mm-hmm.
going to turn into Reverse Flash, or the other Barry Allen becomes Reverse Flash, in that he tries to do something. We do know, obviously, we saw the clip of him walking into his mother's home and kind of
Mm-hmm.
startling her as an adult, meaning he did go back in time and save her. So we know that that part of Flashpoint is part of this. Um, Michael Keaton talked about, like, of all the timelines you can go into the past, the future, to different worlds. Why are you so keen on saving this one?
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting. That's a big thing. Like, so, like, why bother saving one universe when you can just jump to another one that has the world you want already? So that'll add depth, I think, to this character. Because
Personally, I would be more satisfied with, uh, or like more satisfied with the version of this movie where our leading Barry Allen, the one that we've seen so far, becomes Reverse Flash.
yeah,
I'm kind of done with heroes in general, and I think it would be quite tasteful if we got to see a villain take over, even if it was just for a short period of time. So,
well, that's something that Black Adam will touch on, because Black Adam is not a hero. Uh,
mm.
at best, he's an anti-hero, but most of the time he's a villain.
But in the
Um,
sense of we all love Barry Allen,
I
like
love Barry Allen. To
and
me, he's my favorite Flash. I'm not a Wally West guy, but I will say that Ezra Miller's Flash is garbage, absolute garbage. It is the
I
worst interpretation of the Flash on screen. I think Grant Gustin's phenomenal. The series has kind of gone off the rails, but
mhm.
I just don't like Ezra Miller's take on Barry Allen. But part of that, a lot of that, is the directing, because
Writing and directing. I
yeah,
was good. Like I want to agree with you, but I don't think he's had the opportunity yet to show us his version of Barry Allen.
well, I will say this
No,
again.
wait, for a second. Like, let's go back to his appearances so far. Tell me what we have seen from him in, or like the role in terms of character development. In
Well, that was what I
terms,
was getting. That's what I was getting to. I
yeah,
do believe that in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we had better character development from the character. But
barely.
but Ezra Miller has talked about this at length, that he plays the character as somebody who, because his brain works so fast, he has these communication issues, and that's why his dialogue is so weird. But that's his choice as an actor to play it that way.
Mhm.
And that's not who Barry Allen is. Barry Allen is quick-witted, he is funny, but he doesn't have an issue talking to anybody else, because he's the one in the team who talks the most. He's the one in the team who wants to have conversations. He's the one who has a successful relationship with Iris West, and he's the one. But and yeah, let's not get started on Ezra Miller's running. The way he runs,
Come on.
I don't understand this weird, like, whipping the hands. And he said he studied speedrunners. Have you ever seen Usain Bolt do this crap? Ow! I punched my microphone stand. No, no, Usain. Watch, if you want to watch somebody, literally the fastest human in the planet, Usain Bolt. Watch how he runs. Mimic that guy. That's stupid. He took, not speed runners. I'm sorry, speed skaters. He took it from speed skaters, which is just dumb.
Going back to the character choices, I like this take. I didn't see it before, but it's clearer to me now. I think I like this take of the anxiety over stimulation, partly because I can relate to it, but there's an aspect of all superheroes, how they've been portrayed in comic books in the past, and them being neurotypical or average. And with X-Men, and I think that's the biggest showcase of adversity, really, in superhero characters that we've seen so far. But I wouldn't be mad if Ezra took this role into that direction of like we're seeing a character that does not function well in society, but is still the lovable Barry Allen that we know.
Well, that's the problem, is that he's. I understand where you're coming from about showcasing neurodivergence, but one, you have a character that is so grounded in a personality type. Because unlike, like, I would say Superman has changed over the years, Batman has changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Allen hasn't. He's one of the
Well,
few characters that, personality wise, has been so steadfast that they had to create Wally West and other versions of him to create different personalities.
mm-hmm.
And so when you take a character with such a long standing, but without a character change, and then you try to change the character, somebody mentioned in the comments, Ezra Miller's version of the Flash seems more like Wally West. And I agree. Because Wally West is closer to that. He's more anxious. He's more reserved in becoming a hero. He's more.
Well, I mean, so
Near,
I
you
think
know,
you could
so
still, I think it's could still be applicable to his character if you're coming from the sense of like, I mean, what people have you seen people in real life? I mean, myself to an extreme, really, who talk a lot for the sake of getting rid of awkward silence. I mean, it's still
that's my whole life.
playable.
That's my whole
It's
life. It
it's
can be.
valid. It's
You're
still
right.
playable.
It's playable, and Barry does like to fill silence, but the way he does it is not the way that Miller is portraying it. Miller portrays it as somebody who he plays it. Okay, so the best way, as he described it, is that this Barry is a social outcast. Barry in the comics was never social. Again, Wally West was more so a social outcast.
He's not a social outcast in his own world, but at least among other superheroes, he is.
No, the way
Against
Miller put it,
Wonder Woman. Uh-huh.
the way that Ezra Miller said it in the interview is that Barry does not have any friends. He's a social outcast because he doesn't know how to talk to people. That's not Barry Allen. Like, I think, again, I think Grant Gustin's portrayal of Barry Allen, especially in the first 2 seasons of Flash, is the best we've ever seen on screen. I think that Miller's version is closer to Wally West. Like, and again, some of it is writing, because like the scene with the very infamous brunch scene from
Mm-hmm.
from Whedon's Justice League, that was
Mm-hmm.
written by Whedon, and it's a crap scene. It is just horrible. That whole brunch thing is stupid. But you saw better moments in Zack Snyder's version. My hope is that the writers, and from again, we got very little. We saw very little here. But what I did notice, even though we didn't really get any lines out of Barry, was the way he was carrying himself. He seemed more confident and more like, I like that, just that scene of him walking into his mother at the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
He was standing up straight, and when he reached out for her, there was nothing awkward in the sense of somebody who is a social outcast. It was more of a, okay, my mother's alive, I've done it. There's more confidence in his abilities.
Yeah.
And so that's my hope, is that there is growth in his character. And by him playing two Barry Allens, the longer hair Barry Allen can still be that social outcast version. And he could be a more confident version of himself. So there's hope. And
I think I'm coming across as defending Miller more than I really am. But I agree that we can see the motivations and the characteristics being there and justified, but the way Ezra is playing it, or has played those characteristics so far, you've disliked. So I think that's
yeah,
valid.
yeah, and
So,
I
but
agree
the
with.
other thing is that
I was gonna say with
I
Future.
yeah.
Go ahead. I was gonna say what Future said the whole time I was watching the Whedon's Justice League. I kept asking myself why. Exactly, like the whole Flash falling on Wonder Woman's boobs thing, which is a very Whedon thing to do. And I'm like, and his justification, by the way, was that, oh well, Miller's gay, so it's fine. That was Whedon's justification. Like, are you kidding me? All right, we're not going to go on that train. That's a whole other podcast as well.
Really quickly. I am sick and tired of men who will come up with bullshit excuses for treating women and people in general like crap.
Yeah, Josh Whedon is a horrible human being. Unfortunately, he's creative and he might still have a career, but he's a horrible human being. Yeah, I just think
Anyway,
I think this
one
movie
second.
has. Go ahead.
Because Barry Allen is more near and dear to your heart than he is to mine. I see the justification, the reason, like there's validity to your response of not liking this portrayal of Barry Allen in the movies today, because I'm not so as close with the character. I would not mind seeing that kind of change, not just talking about adversity and characters and neurodivergency being on the screen, but really it's like movies are a great place to adapt characters into something else.
Yes,
As long as they are done for the better.
Here's what I would say. When you make comic book movies, you are writing an incredibly fine line between the diehard fans and giving them what they want, and the casual fans and bringing them in to the thing. That's why for so many years comic book movies failed. Marvel has obviously found the best example because the Captain America that we get is fantastic, but he's not exactly like the comics. The Iron Man we got is fantastic, but not exactly like the every character has been. On DC side, I think Man of Steel is a perfect example of that. It is a modern interpretation of Superman. It is not exactly like the Superman from the comics, but it does the character in a way that it's okay. This is if Clark Kent landed in Smallville in 1980, this is how he would be. Versus just completely changing the character all the way. And that's what you have. There's a fine line. You can make changes, but it's so hard. And these creators and these writers and these directors have to be very careful. And again, this is why so many movies fail. Like Zack Snyder deciding to let Batman just kill a ton of people in Batman vs. Superman. And him basically telling everybody to fuck off and grow a set. That was his response. He's like, Batman kills, fuck off and grow a set. That was his response.
Monster Caesar, I love your comment. There is no one definitive version. Absolutely.
That was awesome.
And I do not think Christian Bale's interpretation of Batman is the best one. I'm sorry, I will directly disagree with you there. I do not think it is the most realistic. If we're calling Christian Bale's Batman realistic, he is extremely sociopathic. And has got a. I mean, Batman already has a lot of issues, but this here.
I think that besides all of the killing, I actually think Ben Affleck's Batman was a really good interpretation. A lot of people don't like it, but I actually liked his interpretation.
What about his interpretation that's different from other actors' interpretations stands out to you?
I think part of it was the fact that it was an older Batman. It was a Batman 20 years into his crime fighting. And I felt like the way he portrayed that, where he was a man who was like, if there's even a 1% chance, like this whole, like he lived in absolutes at this point. He had lost his Robin. He had watched so many supervillains get captured that he took in that just came back out and did it again. He was so, it felt like a Batman that was 20 years in. So I appreciated that take on it. I think Whedon took it in the wrong direction, but again, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think it was a better play. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he's played in The Flash, how Affleck's Batman is played in The Flash. I'm looking forward to that. But I'm never going to be one to say that Christian Bale's was the best. I have my issues with that series. I thought it was good. I don't think it's the end-all be-all of Batman. I think that when we talk about it, this upcoming Batman movie might do it. Um, I think Michael Keaton in the first Batman film was amazing. Um, his Bruce Wayne and Batman were so different. Whereas with Christian Bale, it felt like an act. His Bruce Wayne felt like the act. It felt like a mask, which is what Bruce Wayne really is. Bruce Wayne is not.
Mm-hmm.
Batman is the person. Bruce Wayne is the mask. That's how it really is in the comics, where he plays the playboy rich guy for appearances, but the real him is Batman. And I think that Michael Keaton, whereas anybody who watched Christian Bale, if you were in that universe, like if you were part, like you would look at that Christian Bale and go, "Is it just me, or is he like over the top on purpose? Like this feels forced." Like there's no way I would look at that Bruce Wayne out in public and go, "Yeah, that feels forced. Like why did he jump in that fountain? Like that feels forced." Whereas,
I keep saying this, but it's a whole lot of nothing. It does come across as trying too
yeah,
hard and don't get much there other than I mean, it was a great action film for the time. Again, I really like how you said that of talking about the mask for Bruce Wayne.
yeah,
He because there is so much privilege to wearing a literal mask in the
yeah.
real world, having your anonymity, your privacy, and being able to be yourself when there is less worry around people seeing you. Of
That's it.
course, there's the reputation of Bruce or of Batman and being a vigilante, but there's so much more freedom in that, and it's because of that that I'm really just disappointed with most portrayals of Batman today.
Yeah,
I have a different relationship to Batman than, I mean, men in general, but most fans, I honestly can't say that there is a Batman that I love or prefer, because the version of Batman that I see in my mind hasn't been shown yet. I'm not going to. I don't have any expectations that I will see that version of Batman through um, Robert Pattinson. So
Um, I will say that somebody brought up the Batman the animated series with Kevin Conroy as the voice. Yes, that to
mm,
me is the best interpretation of Batman slash Bruce Wayne, as well as the best Joker we've ever gotten. Mark Hamill's Joker is phenomenal. As far as live action, I thought that Keaton did the best job because his Bruce Wayne didn't feel forced. There was a mystique about this playboy, they talked about that, but you saw him and it's just like, okay, this is what it. But then you saw the glimpses, like that whole scene where he knew that the Joker was there to get Vicky Vale, and he put the plate
mm-hmm,
under his chest, and he went, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, like that. Like you saw the glimpses
mm-hmm,
of the psychosis that is Batman, because it is a psychosis. You saw that,
yeah.
and then you had a very like his Batman was very, I'm Batman. It was very, so I felt like that was the best portrayal we've gotten on, and it was from the first movie, not so much the second one, but I think Batman Returns in all is the better film. You had two fantastic villains, but I think the portrayal in the first one is better. Um, uh,
Is going to be biased towards portrayals where he has more heart. I think just because a person has seen a lot of shit, it does not mean that they are not human.
yeah,
Even though Batman is inherently a dark character who uh, certainly benefits from emotionally detaching himself, like intentionally dissociating for the sake of sticking to his moral code.
yeah.
Um, oh my god, completely forgot how I started that sentence because a lot of stuff is running through my brain right now. Just going back to that portrayal that I would like to see of Batman does have a lot more humanity to it, but is not necessarily a lovable, perfect human.
Well,
I mean,
as we're on the topic of Batman, we will jump into the Batman trailer now, and because I think that's actually a good point, because this version of Batman is only it's year 2 Batman. So it's very early on in his career. And this is a time
mhm,
when he doesn't even associate as Bruce Wayne. Like, obviously we saw scenes where he's out as Bruce Wayne, but he hasn't developed the character of Bruce Wayne yet. And that's why there's a line where Andy Serkis is Alfred, which, by the way, could very well be the best Alfred we've ever gotten. Because Andy Serkis is fantastic. But he says that he's like, you can't keep doing this. You're going to kill yourself. That is not him saying you have to stop being Batman. It was more so you need to understand you have a life as Bruce Wayne, and you need to develop that along with this. And that happened. So if you read Batman Year 1 or Batman Year 2, or if you read any of those early Batman storylines, especially like the Frank Miller ones and the Grant Morrison ones, like, they talk about that. Like, he had to develop the mask of Bruce Wayne to survive and to put himself out there to hear more stuff. So, excuse me. I got all my notes from the trailer because this was the only like true trailer we got. And last year they gave us a teaser, but they'd only filmed 25% of the movie. Now the production is done and they're in post-production, so we got a full trailer this time. It is said that this is going to be an almost 3-hour-long movie, like the test screenings.
Which I'm not mad about.
I'm not either.
I love long movies.
Well, it's going to be a detective noir, which is something that's never really been explored in live action, is the world's greatest detective side of Batman. They touched on it in I would say the Dark Knight trilogy touched on it a little bit with some of the stuff he did, but again, it was still it was mostly technology based, like him recreating the bullet and all that stuff. That's not him being a detective. That's him relying on. So he's going to focus on the detective side. This is going to be a mystery. This is going to be almost a German detective noir film. That is he said that one of his biggest Chinatown was one of his biggest influences for this movie. So anybody who knows Chinatown knows what I'm talking about. So, what's also interesting,
just because you said you touched on the German detective film, I wanted to say really quickly, I miss European influence in filmmaking in the United States.
Star Wars Lawyer, thank you so much for the follow. You get a dancing penguin.
Hey, Star Wars Lawyer, thanks for joining, and thank you for subscribing or following. You followed, not subscribed.
Subscriptions will come.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. And I'll have a whole new emoji for those. I'll have to figure it out. Are you talking about Bruce not being out and about being a detective? What do you mean by that, Shinso? Not being out.
We just don't see, in general, we don't see detective skills where he really, I mean, it is heavily reliant on technology, on Alfred. Oh, what's the name of the character that What's-His-Face played in the Dark Knight?
Lucius Fox?
Morgan Freeman.
Lucius Fox.
Yes, thank you. And this is me going back to European influence in filmmaking. Just nuance of a character sitting with themselves and doing work.
Thank you for the hype, Star Wars Lawyer. Yes, you just got there to subs. We will get there soon enough. We're almost there. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
What is it about American directors that go, we're not going to see a person sit, stand, do some kind of action by themselves for a long sequence, for a long scene?
Well, I wouldn't say that's every American director. Because you got guys.
I'm not saying every, but in general, I miss.
Well, because there's American cinema versus otherworldly cinema. So I mean, a lot of directors just do what they think is going to need to be done. But you got guys like David Fincher, Dennis. I can't even pronounce his last name. The guy who's doing Dune, Villeneuve, I think is his last name. There's a handful of them. Kubrick was good about that, even though he was a piece of shit. But yeah, this will be the first time you really get into like Batman being a true detective. We're going to see Bruce Wayne in bits, but his Bruce Wayne persona is not the mask of the playboy, persona. It is more like just a depressed Batman. It's a depressed Bruce Wayne.
Mhm.
And oh, the thing I wanted to mention about this film, there's also going to
Robert
be
Pattinson not wanting to gain weight.
no. I'm not going to get. I don't care about that. I think he looks great.
No, no, that's what I want to talk about. I'll talk about it in a second. You go.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. There's going to be apparently a lot of like monologuing, like voiceover monologue from Batman, as if you're
Mm.
reading the comic book. You know, a lot of times in the comic book, you're reading what is basically his inner thoughts. So they're going to do that in a kind of like a monologue that's voiceover. So as he's working, he's not talking out loud, but we're hearing his
Uh-huh.
thoughts, kind of thing. So I think that's going to be very interesting and very comic
Because
book.
it's going to be one very specific interpretation of his psychology, how he sees himself, how he is reacting to himself making mistakes, how the presence of his ego is there. I love that.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
it's gonna be,
I'm going to Robert Pattinson not wanting to gain weight for this role. I love that decision. Specifically when you were talking about what is influencing his character in the movie. Like, this is regardless of his personal preferences as an actor. If you're talking about depression, people change. Their mental health changes based off of their body and their perception of their body. And I want to see more of that being discussed in film in general in society. There's such a huge stigma around, both mental illness and physical illness, and the stigma around body image, body dysmorphia. I'm not saying that I really want it to be a major part of the conversation in this movie, but oh my God, I would love it if it was.
well, I look at this. There's a scene you do see Pattinson without a shirt on, and to me, he looks ripped. But you see the scars and everything already. He's only been doing this for, like I said, about 2 years. But you already see the scars and everything. Shinso asked if we're going to find out about him getting his skills from Raja Ghul. I don't think they're going to touch on where he gets his skills from at all. I think that might come later. This movie is already set for a trilogy. We know we're getting at least 3 films. We're also getting the Gotham PD show, which will tie into this. Excuse me. Now Gotham PD is supposedly set before this movie, and it'll be about a corrupt Gotham PD that Jim Gordon is trying to navigate through. So this is like early on, before the bat signal even exists. It's going to be very early year one Batman. He won't really be in the film, but he'll be in the show, but he'll be talked about. So they maybe, but I don't know if this series will even ever, because you know what? It's not necessary unless that character is brought in, unless they bring in Raja Ghul as a villain in another film. You don't need to discuss where he gets his skills from. That's really not a concern, especially if the focus is on his detective work. Not because this movie is going to focus. You see, he's very aggressive. Like, he beats the ever loving shit out of that gang. And then the fight in the Iceberg Lounge, he's just beating the ever, like, he is far too aggressive and angry. And this is why Alfred says you're going to kill yourself. He needs an outlet. He needs a persona as Bruce Wayne to try to balance himself. This version doesn't really have that. He has no balance. He has no, like, his aggression. He's going to push to the line of murder. Like, he's going to get close to killing people in this film. And he's going to have to find his moral compass in this. So I don't know if they'll ever touch on where he got his skills from, because it's really not necessary to do so. I will say we did get our first real glimpse at the Batman voice, and I think it's fantastic. It's just slightly modulated. Like, the Ben Affleck Batman voice is obviously has a very, like, they spent a long time trying to fix the voice modulator, and he's got a very almost robotic voice that's modulated through his cowl. Then you have the Dark Knight version where Christian Bale decided to pull his registry of vocals from his nuts and all the way down there, and had this, he smoked like a carton of Marlboro before every time he talked, and it was ridiculous. I think this version of the Bat voice is fantastic. It's closer to the Michael Keaton Batman, who just lowered his octave a few octaves, but it's slightly modulated too, so you can't, like, if you were to record it, you couldn't use a voice technology to discover who Batman is. It's just slightly modulated, which I liked. Um,
Shinso, I mean, I think it's too early to say that. And even if it is not a portrayal of the Batman from the comics, I mean, well, that's kind of doing the comics dirty, though.
no, I think it is a
Like that
portrayal.
perspective is
It is from the
because
comics, though. I think,
that's what I'm saying is
yeah.
like, um, oh my God, hold on, let me take a second to correct my language.
Well, take a second, and I'll explain what I mean while you think about it. The comics you need to read before this movie are Batman Long Halloween, Batman Dark Victory, Batman Year 2, because they actually pulls very heavily from these stories. And that's the persona of Batman we're getting. It's an early version from the comics, and it is very comic accurate in a lot of ways. Just because they're not going to explore where he got his abilities from doesn't mean it's not going to be comic accurate. They're just not going to talk about it. This is a Batman who's in his second year. So he's kind of established. We got a bat signal, which means he's working with the GCPD, even though scenes in the trailer look like he gets framed for something because the GCPD is after him. But it is a although new Batman and already established Batman. So we don't need to like look into the past of where he got his fighting skills, because as you can see, it's still very rough. He hasn't got it down in his head yet to have more restraint. Like he's like, again, these kids in this gang, he beats the ever loving shit out of, and then he shocks one with a glove taser. Like holy shit! Like it's like damn.
So earlier I said my thoughts in reverse. I wanted to say your comment of like it's not a Batman that the comics portrays. You're doing the comics dirty when you say that a little, because we're going to get more insight into that internal monologue that Batman has always had, the conversation with himself as he grows and changes. And if in this movie he is not a version of Batman that we have seen before, is that a bad thing?
Exactly. Um, I don't want it to be a version that we've seen before, because we've had so many versions that it's getting tiring.
Mhm.
We keep getting new franchises like every 5 years now. But jumping from Batman to Riddler, Paul Dano's Riddler in this, I think, is going to take the Riddler from a D-list villain to an A-list psychopath, similar to what happened in the Long Halloween storyline.
Mhm.
Um,
And
or
how great
was
is
that the
it
one? Yeah.
that the Joker is not getting center attention?
I would honestly, in all three of these movies, if they never even mentioned the Joker, I'd be happy. As much as I
Yeah.
love the Joker, I'd be happy with not getting another on-screen Joker. I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
But I compare this version of the Riddler to similar to the Joker from The Dark Knight, like Heath Ledger's Joker, where it seems like it's chaotic, but there's actually a very long-running plan. Or like how Loki let himself be captured in Avengers, or like John Doe in Seven, where he turned himself in. Because this trailer opens up with him in a cafe, allowing the cops to take him because he wants to be captured. Like so, there's a methodical, long game to his plan. So that's exciting. It's very like there's a lot of. It seems almost like the riddles will go from being just ridiculous riddles like we got in the Val Kilmer Batman Forever to more of a jigsaw like these traps are deadly. Like
Mhm.
it's like the Arkham series in the games, like those riddles, but dialed up to 11 in a sense, because even in the game he's still very D-list in the way it's handled.
And depending on how far they push um, the psychopathy, I am nervous about, well, going back to playability and how that is portrayed, and how much of a villain Riddler will be in this movie.
Well, the biggest theory right now is that it feels like the Riddler is not the main villain, and that it could be leading to the Court of Owls. And the only
Mm.
reason I'm actually on board with this theory is that while Riddler will most likely be the main villain of this particular movie, there could be a Court of Owls that because again, this is going to be a trilogy. So the Court of Owls could be working behind the scenes, which will be an interesting take because the Court of Owls they didn't show up till just a few years ago. So they had nothing to do with Batman Year 2. But the fact is they were able to retrograde the Court of Owls to being in Gotham for centuries. And that even Thomas Wayne's father, Batman's grandfather, was part of the Court of Owls. Like there was like a big to do.
Okay.
And there's a lot of, if you guys want to watch a great breakdown, which I'm going to do mine this weekend, but there's a great, if you don't want to wait, New Rockstars do a decent breakdown and they point out the Court of Owls stuff. Like the fact that there's the Batcave is actually an abandoned Wayne Enterprises subway. Like the Waynes, so there's all these little different things. And we talked about the GCPD, Jigsaw, like, I like that. Again, this is an aggressive Batman. This is an angry Batman that has to learn his restraint. And that line where he says that the bat signal is not just a calling, it's a warning, I thought was really cool. And I think that doesn't get discussed enough in the comics and in the show. Like, yeah, when the GCPD flips that switch, they need Batman. But it also lets every criminal know that, oh shit, Batman's on his way. Like, it's a warning. You see that signal go up as a criminal, you should be like, oh, I'm done for tonight. I'm going to bed. It should be like, I'm out, So the other thing about the Riddler, the trailer mentions that he is live streaming one of his traps. It says Psycho Killer live streams on the news. That means it's set in modern day. And it means you're going to get kind of that same Joker-esque cult following that happened in the Joker movie, which is, and I'm going to say this right now and piss a lot of people off, I thought was trash. The Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, not good. Great performances, not a Joker movie. Regardless. Joaquin. I don't care.
I just love correcting you. It's all I have, really.
But yeah, the Riddler's on Twitch. No, he's live streaming some of these traps, so it makes it set in modern day.
Yeah.
There's also something interesting, and here's something else I want to discuss. And this just popped in my head, so I'm going off what I was talking about. But there were a lot of behind the scenes images of what looked like a Halloween party, and you had people dressed up as Superman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman as costumes. So apparently in this world, unlike the Batman series from the Tim Burton Batmans and the Dark Knight Batmans, the Christopher Nolan Batmans, these characters exist in some form. Some form. So we could get superpowered villains maybe down the road, like a Bane, like a real Bane, or like a Clayface, or something down the road. That could happen. But
and in terms of character development, this is a Batman that will be comparing himself to the heroes.
Yeah, that's the other weird part of it. Batman's one of the oldest heroes in history. He's got 80 years. Superman's the only one that's really older as far as mainstream heroes go. Wonder Woman hits 80 years next year, so she's actually younger than Batman. But this version will have to compare himself to what seems to be established metahumans.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting. That could also lead into his aggression.
And this ties into what I was talking about before with the playability of the psychopathy and how the Riddler is going to be portrayed. Is he going to be an anti-hero that the audience will be tricked into aligning themselves with, or is it going to be pushing full villain in this movie? Because if the Riddler has a fan following in the world of the story, they're going to be they're commenting on our society, our culture, I mean, and how it is that we treat celebrities, push.
So that also leads into the Court of Owls. Because if you notice, all of Riddler's victims, it's the mayor, it's the current commissioner, and it's the DA. it's government officials, supposedly corrupt government officials. So he's treating it like, it's kind of like, again, going back to the Joker movie with Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
People got behind him for killing those 3 Wall Street assholes because they're the elitist.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why the Riddler will get a cult following, because the people will look at this like, oh, he's taking out the corrupt government.
And yeah,
Which
it's
is
just
obviously
reinforcing why I'm nervous about that
social
aspect.
commentary. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you never know how people are going to react. It's astonishing how often people are unable to recognize satire as it is. So I mean,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I've talked about this at length before. I
can't reach my
think
drink. Okay, I got it.
we always
My mic
need
was
to
in the way.
It's okay. We always need to take better care of the roles we write when about mental health. So, and
Well,
how we treat mental health in our world. So,
well, I also think the fact that he is focused on corrupt government does also lead to that Court of Owls theory, because supposedly the Court of Owls runs everything behind the scenes. So the Riddler could be almost an anti-hero in a sense that he's trying to take down the Court of Owls, but he sees that Batman, who's part of the Wayne family, which I'm sure the Riddler knows who he is part of the problem. And obviously the way you go about it, you don't kill a bunch of people with these elaborate traps to bring about change. That's just a psychotic way of handling corruption. But yeah, the Joker worship monster, very exactly. We're gonna kind of see that in the Riddler here. He's gonna have a cult following of sorts. So I wrote down, Batman is very angry and brutal, pushing to the brink of killing, but starting to use more gadgets, like the kind of the sonar gadget where he shocked the guy on his glove. So we're seeing the growth of Batman and his utility belt in a way. But again, Matt Reeves has been very clear that he wants to focus on an aspect it's never focused on, and that's the true detective skills, the brains of Batman. Batman is one of the smartest people in the DC universe, and his deduction skills are second to none. But we never get to see that because in the movies he's focused solely on his gadgets.
Yeah, and even in portrayals of him as an animated character, it's an emphasis on. I'm gonna use the word blandness again. I like any interaction that Batman has with Wonder Woman. Well, most of the time, she is the person pushing for a relationship.
There's a great comic about that where Wonder Woman and Batman get stuck on this. I don't know if it's another dimension or another planet or something, but they're literally stuck there for years. But then when they get transported back, it's like a day was gone. Like it's one of those weird and they end up having a relationship over those years, mainly because they were the only two there. But that was teased in the Justice League.
Justice League Unlimited. They teased a lot.
I meant the live action Justice League. It was teased in that.
I gotcha.
But I don't think it's something that'll ever get approached. But it's one of those things that it's interesting to see. The animated movies and the animated shows touch on it a lot, and I think it's a dynamic that needs to be touched on more because Wonder Woman does know Batman better than most. But she's also she's a warrior, so killing her is second to none. Like it's just like that's what I do. I have to, I'm a warrior. I fight wars. I kill. And for her, it was
that's how she's portrayed in the live action movies. But there's a lot of change with her representation. There are some aspects of her where she is more detached from humankind, and definitely is a murderer. And then there are portrayals of her where she just wants to have a life of her own, separate from being a member of the Justice League, and her difficulties pursuing that independence. But yeah, just
if you look at the modern animated films like Justice League War and the current Death of Superman, there's Death of Superman and Reign of Superman. It's that one. It's Rosario Dawson as the voice of Wonder Woman, and it's portraying the modern comic version of the character who doesn't want a personal life. Like she tries, because her and Superman start dating in Justice League War. But by Death of Superman, they've broken up because now Superman is in love with Lois Lane, and those two broke up and they're fine and they're good together. But she tries to have a secret identity, and she's like, this doesn't work for me. Like Diana Prince is an ambassador, but I'm still Wonder Woman. So she goes to the White House in her Wonder Woman outfit, not in Diana Prince outfit. Like it's just like, no, there's no I am who I am. Whereas, Batman has Bruce Wayne, Superman has Clark Kent. I like that interpretation where she's like, no, forget this secret identity bullshit. I am me. This is who I am, and I don't care. But also, it's easier to do that when you're a near immortal god, like, because this version, the modern version, is the daughter of Zeus. So she is a demigod. It's not just, so that's interesting. I want to talk about Catwoman.
Oh, okay.
Because Zoe Kravitz, holy shit. I love Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, but it is not comic book accurate in the slightest. I think Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman is going to be amazing. I think she's got the attitude that kind of like she's very flirty with Batman. There's like this intrigue in her, but at the same time, she's like, I have no problem kicking your ass too. Like there's the fight scene wasn't in this clip. It's in the clip from a year ago where the two of them have a fight scene. And I'm like, damn. But you see her, she wears disguises. In this, she is the daughter of Falcone. Which is something that came in, a spinoff from Batman Dark Victory was a comic book called Catwoman When in Rome, where she goes to look for her real father, and it turns out to be Falcone.
Love Eartha Kitt, by the way.
Eartha Kitt was amazing as Catwoman, yes. Also, so is Julie Newmar.
So, I wanted to say, I am not a big fan of Zoe Kravitz, and I don't know if I'm going to enjoy her interpretation of Catwoman because I've in the past there's a lot of consistency with me being disappointed in her acting in general.
I understand where you're coming from because I know what you're talking. As soon as you said that, I knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah,
but I think that what I've seen of her so far, granted, we've only seen really this trailer and the teaser from a year ago. But what I'm seeing is, one, a character that she's never portrayed before. Every other character she's portrayed I've seen her in, for the most part, is very much like the character from Fantastic Beast. Like, it's just like this kind of like, I'm there. It's almost like she's just, I'm here. Like, it was never like, I'm going to make an impact. But
this is why I don't like her acting performances, because you know that there is a character there.
Yeah, it's just
what happened to it.
But
where did it go?
From what we're seeing out of this Catwoman, we're seeing more attitude. We're seeing more life. Like, I feel like she's going to do a really good job here.
We'll see.
I could be proven wrong, but I do feel that her Catwoman is going to be pretty amazing just from what I'm seeing, and also from her interviews. Because if you look at her interviews during the Fantastic Beast and some of the other films, she's almost interviewing like she's just there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't send you the clip, or did I? Did I send you? No, I just sent you the trailer. I didn't send you the interview.
Send me anything on. Well, go ahead.
I didn't send you the interview prior, where it was Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves, and Zoe Kravitz. They talked beforehand, but it was like a 5-minute clip. I should have sent it to you. But her enthusiasm, and it's crazy because you got to remember, this film was delayed for a long time because of the pandemic, and then Robert Pattinson got COVID, so it got delayed again. But her enthusiasm, I saw more life in her just in the interview that I've ever seen from her. So her enthusiasm has me excited, plus what I'm seeing from the character. I think this Catwoman is going to be pretty damn badass. She's definitely going to ride that line of like, it's kind of like, you remember how Anne Hathaway's characters, like, she turned Bruce to Bane, and like, she just kept flip-flopping. I don't think she's going to flip-flop as much as just, I'm gonna write a line because I'm gonna do what's best for me. And if it just so happens to align with the good side, great. And if it doesn't, so be it. She's also it's also a character where she's distancing herself from her father. Her father, the mobster Falcone.
Yeah.
She wants to make a living on her own. She wants to make a name for herself on her own. She's just doing it in a I'm going to steal and be a cat burglar kind of thing. But I do think that we're going to see. I like the chemistry between the two. I do think that
So often do these characters, especially villains that we love, fall short in the live action portrayals because there's a lack of backstory. So it will be refreshing to see more of that backstory for this character that we love.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we touched on Andy Serkis being Alfred. I think that's going to be. I just love him. God, I love Andy Serkis so much.
Yeah.
I mentioned that he talks about, if you continue down this path, you'll die, and it's not that he's afraid that he's going to die as Batman. He's just going to die because he's going to kill himself because he has no separation. He's letting it consume him. And I wrote down, this is based around Batman not yet embracing his Bruce Wayne side and focusing solely on Batman, to where he wants to basically just forego being Bruce Wayne, let all that go to the wayside, and only be Batman. Where Alfred realizes he needs the mask. He needs the mask of Bruce Wayne to survive. That got touched on a little bit in the Dark Knight trilogy with Michael Caine as Alfred. Although I would say that Alfred, his flip-flop from Dark Knight to Dark Knight Rises as Alfred, where he was like, I'm fully on board, I'm going to support you 1,000%, to I'm leaving, fuck you, this is stupid, you're going to kill yourself, I thought was terrible. I thought it was portrayed horribly.
Well, I mean, I agree, but only because we never see the process that Alfred goes through of that self-doubt, that shame that he would have of going, this is a family that I've stuck with my entire life, how dare I even consider leaving at this point, sort of a thing. I don't disagree with Alfred flip-flopping, period, but because we don't see the process, we don't have a scene of him, or like, again, that internal conflict being shown more.
Well, that's because in Dark Knight there was no time for that. After Dark Knight, when Harvey Dent died, Bruce Wayne just stopped being Batman. Then 10 years later, which is when Dark Knight Rises takes place, he's suddenly like, I have to be Batman again. So Alfred's, it had to be quick. Like, it was just like, he got so accustomed to this 10 years where he was no longer Batman that all of a sudden, but because there was no process, like you said, we didn't see the growth of it was just all of a sudden like, and that whole story about, I dream about seeing you in Italy and da-da-da. I'm like, that's dumb. Stop it. Stop.
I thought it was sweet, okay?
That's bullshit.
Maybe you're not there at your life yet, but I would love to retire already. I'm only 22 and I would love to retire in Italy.
I am retired. Like, what are you talking about? I am actually retired. Like, for those who don't know, I am actually medically retired from the Army. Get a pension, the whole nine. I'm retired. Like, this is why I do this, because I'm retired. Like, but see what I'm doing? I'm doing something else instead of sitting
and you're like, how dare Alfred have hope for the person he loves most in the world?
If he wanted that from Batman or from Bruce Wayne,
why wasn't he pushing it
for 10 fucking years? He had 10 years.
Because they had different priorities.
No, he didn't, because he wasn't Batman at all for 10 years. He sat on his ass and moped in one wing of the. Why didn't he hey Bruce, let's go to Italy. Hey Bruce, let's go do this. Hey Bruce, like, why didn't he push for it? No, he sat there and brought him food while he moped in one wing of the house for 10 years. Why was this story not told to Bruce 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Why is it all of a sudden now? Like,
okay, so I guess this is just an issue with the writing. Then, I mean, I see him grieving just a little bit in the movie, and I'm already building that. I'm seeing that play out more in my head. But and as a person who has lived with people who have grieved very deeply, severely, to the point where it was breaking their mental health, I can understand taking that step back and going, I need to let them feel their feelings and work through their trauma for a bit. So I could see that I've built that in my head about Alfred with those movies in particular. But so that's
For
why I'm
10 years.
protesting.
For 10 years. You're going to, okay, would you, somebody you deeply care about, you consider a child of yours that you raised, are you going to be like, you can stay in your wing of the house for 10 years. I will bring you food and
I'm
will
not
let
saying
you...
for the entire 10 years, though, because
That's my
Batman
point.
was there eventually.
But that's my point. Batman didn't exist for 10 years. He hung up the cape and cowl that night. The night Harvey Dent died.
You're mishearing me. I'm saying, like, there doesn't have to be any overlap at all when it comes to like recovering grieving. I mean, his character still does forever, basically, but he doesn't have to be Batman that entire time. Not all 10 years, like that gap that you're settling. Dude.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, he hung up the cape and cowl. He hung up the cape and cowl the night Harvey Dent died. At the end of the Dark Knight.
But just wait, that's what I'm saying, though. Like,
but no, that's what I mean. As Alfred, instead of telling him this story and being like, "Hey, look, let's do something. Let's get away from Gotham. Let's get out of here." I understand letting somebody grieve because he was grieving over the loss of what's her name, Matt Ronald's character. He's grieving over that. So I get letting him, do his thing. But letting him sit in one room in one wing of the house for 10 years, and you just bring him 3 meals a day, and let him wither away to the point where he's walking with a cane, and he's gray-haired, and he's worn out, and you do that for 10 years, and you don't say a word, and then when he finally, all of a sudden, a new threat comes up in Gotham, which had they had decided to leave and go to Italy, they wouldn't even know about.
That's what I'm trying to... This is what I'm trying to get to, though, is that even though he was sitting in a room for a decade, Alfred knows that he is not actually quitting. How do I...
That's not what Alfred said.
How do I word?
That's not what Alfred said. Remember, Michael Caine's Alfred said, "I was so happy when you retired, and I thought we were done with this."
But okay, but is that what Alfred really thought?
Yeah, because he quit afterwards.
Immediately after he hung up the cape.
No. I'm not saying immediately. But after 10 years, like, don't you think by year 5 you're like, "Hey, by the way, Bruce, why don't we go on vacation? I've always had this dream of seeing you in Italy with a woman on your arms and having a cafe, and you and I just giving a little nod." Alfred was still going every year to Italy by himself. He was leaving Bruce Wayne crippled and alone in a goddamn mansion every year.
I've seen this happen in real life. I've experienced...
For 10 years.
I'm there at year 5 with someone I really care about.
And is that person doing nothing with their life? Is that person sitting in a room just moping?
Yeah. Honestly, there's some quote about how when you lose someone, it takes twice the amount of time that they were in your life for you to heal from the loss of them.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true, that's real, because everyone processes their trauma in different ways. Every individual is different, but I mean, for at least in my experience, I'm at year 5 with this person that I really care about, and them grieving, and I don't know if this is just because of their experience or just their personality type and how they feel more comfortable being alone at home. but that I've got the confirmation bias there.
Yeah. Well, here's
I
my
think
confirmation bias. Here's my confirmation bias. So for anybody who doesn't know, unfortunately, earlier this year, I lost my best friend of 30 years to a random heart attack out of nowhere. My best friend Carl, great guy who probably would have been on this podcast with us. He died, and that was a huge blow, obviously, because again, he's been in my life for 30 years. But I don't, and I have my days where, and that's probably part of the reason that this past 2 weeks has been kind of weird for me. I've had some down moments. I have my moments. It happens. But my confirmation bias is that I have to look at this, and I've had to be both Bruce Wayne and Alfred in this situation because Denise, who some of you guys remember from earlier episodes, was also friends with Carl for 30 years. So I had to be the Alfred in that situation. But then I got to be Bruce Wayne and mope, and she got to be my Alfred at times. But everybody's different. So you can never, if I was to sit there and go, well, you have to give somebody double the amount of time, that would require me 60 years. 60 years before I could be like, I'm okay. I'm okay now, even though it still hits me from time to time. You know, my birthday was really hard this year because his birthday was only 5 days before mine. So I didn't want to celebrate. But you know what Denise did? And my stepson Brandon, hey, we're going out for your birthday. Because you got to go do something. Now, everybody's different. Everybody is. But I cannot believe that Alfred just sat there and let Bruce Wayne mope for 10 years in the city and the thing is, they had infinite amount of money. Let's just be honest. They have infinite amount of money. Alfred was taking vacations every single year to Italy. So which means he left this grieving Bruce Wayne at home by himself for a week or 2 weeks or a month, however long he's in Italy. You would think that he would be like, hey, let's go to Italy. Let's go to get him out of Gotham. 10 years is far too long, and all of a sudden you're pissed off that he takes up the role of Batman when somebody tries to take over the city?
I love that this is what we are debating right now.
I'm just saying, at the end of the day, Andy Serkis is a much better Alfred. Plain and simple. I'm just going to say that now. I think that the writing in Dark Knight Rises was terrible. But you know what? I know why. Christopher Nolan never wanted to make a third Batman film. He wanted to be done at Dark Knight, especially after Heath Ledger passed away. He was like, we're good. We're going to stop here. We're good. But Warner Brothers really pushed him and said, look at these numbers. We got to do something. He's like, and they played you don't have a real ending. Let's give it an ending. And then we got Dark Knight Rises, which is crap. Although I love Tom Hardy, you have to put the captions on to know what he's saying in that movie. The sound design in that was terrible, which is weird because Christopher Nolan has some of the best sound design in movies ever. Like his sound design in most movies is phenomenal.
My opinions on the movies as a whole is different from the average person. I'll touch on it really quickly. I mean, because I already said before that I did not really enjoy Christian Bale's portrayal as Batman. But what I did love was oh my god, my fucking brain. Cinematography, Jesus freaking Christ, I can talk. I can words. I love the cinematography. I did love the dark feel to it. And I didn't think the writing was that bad. I mean, I just defended it for 15 minutes, but it's pretty much every aspect of it other than Christian Bale's acting. Well, yeah. I will give it credit there more than the average person.
Well, like I said, I don't think the writing was any good in the third one. There was too many things, like there's the timeline. A lot of the timeline doesn't add up. Like if you dissect the film, a lot of the timeline.
Yeah, that's valid. That's valid. I still enjoyed it.
The whole broken back thing, and then the guy just hanging him upside down, or hanging him and then whatever. Yeah, just not good. Not good. And then the
The
whole
suspension of disbelief was not ruined for me as much as the average person. That's really what it comes down to.
well, that's the problem with a film like that, and that's where so suspension of disbelief in superhero movies is typically easier because you got people flying around, you got people like doing things like there's aliens and stuff like that. But when you try so hard to ground this character in realism for your first two films, and then you go with nonsensical things that don't make sense in the real world, it hurts it.
Mm.
And that's part of the problem and I think that's what Nolan, like, he really felt like the series should have been ended. He's even said it in interviews. He's like, it should have stopped it too.
But
Like,
the tone is still consistent.
tone's consistent. That's not the problem.
Style
I think the
still
tone and style is there, yeah. But
that's what I'm saying.
and
That's like that's what carries it really for me. That's why I will still watch them today, even though I don't agree with every aspect of it. I still really do like those movies. It's not 100% ruined for me. It's not my favorite. I'm still gonna watch it.
yeah, and well, like, I don't like Dark Knight Rises, but when I end up watching Batman Begins, I then watch Dark Knight. I then watch Dark Knight Rises. I do finish a trilogy because it's there and it's part of it. But like the twist of what's her name's character being the villain, I saw that coming a mile away. That's one thing I will give Christopher Nolan a little bit of a little bit of hell for. His twists sometimes, like Interstellar, they're not great. His twists aren't great. Like, I think Interstellar was a great movie up until the black hole scene and the Tesseract and the books and everything. I think it falls apart there. But like there's other parts, but like I think Inception. I loved Inception.
I really don't like comparing Christopher Nolan's other films to the Batman series.
Oh, I'm just talking about Christopher Nolan as a whole. I'm not comparing them.
Gotcha.
I meant his twist. Like, most times when there's a twist, like, you know what the twist is in Inception? We don't know. It's left so ambiguous that we don't know.
It's not.
But you know what's
if you pay attention, okay, I want to say this. I watched Inception for the first time this year, spring of this year, and it was so freaking predictable to me. This, like, it is not left open-ended. We know that he dies. He is in his own fantasy realm at the end.
Not according to Michael Caine.
With the spinning top.
Not according to Michael Caine, because Michael Caine was told by Christopher Nolan that every scene he's in is in the real world. So Michael Caine is in that movie, and Christopher Nolan, his only response was, well, you guys should trust Michael Caine.
I love The Prestige. That is my favorite.
Oh, Prestige is amazing.
Hands down.
And that was a twist that I actually liked. And that is a great movie.
Mm-hmm. One movie that I did not predict the ending to.
That movie, I love Prestige. And I went back and I've watched it, and there's some people like, oh, how could you not tell that was Christian Bale in makeup? I've seen that movie 2 or 3 dozen times, and I'm still like, no, I don't see it. Like, I love that movie. That movie, Prestige, is one of my all-time favorites.
You catch on to it a little bit because there is intentional mystery that they leave with that character. But it was difficult. I saw that for the first time when I was like, what, 13? And I didn't get it then. And I'm a very sharp person. I mean, I'm a freaking writer. It takes a lot to surprise me. So anyway. But okay, but still, like I said it before, I don't like comparing Nolan's films to what he did with the Batman series.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I
wanted to ask you, what of all the superhero movies, the live action superhero movies that you have seen, what are the ones that you find yourself returning to for entertainment? Not to familiarize yourself with it more, not to try to catch up on the details, like because you have joy when you watch it. And I can't say that joy is an emotion I associate with the Dark Knight trilogy, but
yeah, no, I get what you meant though.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, Avengers Endgame, Batman '89 and Batman Returns, the Christopher Reeve Superman 1 and 2, but for 2,
which you said before, I remember that.
But for 2, it has to be the Richard Donner cut, not the one that got the theaters, but the Richard Donner cut. Man of Steel.
So a lot of these have very different themes, different tones. I mean, especially when you
Yeah.
compare MCU to DC. But when you think about it, what are the aspects of those movies that pull you back? Why is it entertaining? And I'm sorry that this is a specific question that I'm asking on the spot, but
No, it's
this is,
fine. It's
yeah.
fine. It's different for each movie. I think Doctor Strange pulls me back in because it opened up a different component to the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
Mm-hmm.
the dimensions and whatnot. And I just think it's a great story, and it's well
Mm-hmm.
done. It's well done. I think Avengers Endgame is just a big epic that's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Christopher Reeve's Man of Steel 1 and 2 are just classics. Like the
Mm-hmm.
reason I got into comic books was because of the first Superman film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're done so well, and the love that Christopher Reeves has for the character and what he put into it. The man spent 6 months after production just shooting flying scenes, and he put so
Mm-hmm.
much work into those. I think it's great. I think the Batman '89 and Batman Returns are just, again, they're fun, enjoyable films. Um, what were some of the other ones? I'm trying to think of some other ones that I go back and watch. There's a lot of MCU ones that I'll go back and watch just for fun. I think Spider-Man: Homecoming is one, mainly because I feel like it's the.
Interesting. Okay.
I feel like a lot of people aren't like keen on that movie for some reason, but I feel it's the best portrayal of Peter Parker we've ever gotten. Like the one particular scene I focus on in that movie is the scene where he finally confronts the Vulture after the dance, or
Uh-huh.
during the dance actually, leaves his date, and then the Vulture cuts down the pillars and drops the building on him. And instead of seeing a superhero get his way out, you see a scared 15-year-old boy.
Yeah. We've talked
And
about this before, I think.
yeah, we have, and I love that scene because that's the truest you'll ever see Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And I love that scene. There's some bad ones that I go back and watch too, because even though they're bad, it's like a weird, like they're bad but it's good to watch. Or like the first Venom movie isn't great.
Fun being there as an
Yeah,
audience member. That's a good enough answer.
yeah, it's like the first Venom movie isn't great, but I go back and watch it.
Mhm. So for again, like going back to my defense of the writing with the Dark Knight movies, um, for me, they don't need it. Not everything has to be perfect. I'm okay with whatever plot holes. I haven't even put that much thought into this. Is most that I've talked about it with another person, but just the feeling that I have is I don't care because frequently return to those movies for the tone. I mean, I think it's fair to say that when the first Dark Knight movie came out, we all were so drawn to it because of the darkness, because of how gritty it was. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that is certainly repeated in movies today, especially indie film. But it's like I don't see that 100% of the time, and I'm always going to go back to it just for the tone, just for even the colorization or lack of colorization.
Yeah.
um, uh, Even though, and again, I know I'm being highly repetitive, even though it's not my favorite portrayal of Batman, it's still up there in terms of like Batman movies that I find entertaining.
Well, no, like I said, I love the first two, and I think the reason I watched the third one is not just to finish the trilogy when I watch them,
Mhm.
but I also watched Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin is one of the worst films ever made, but I
Well,
watch them.
okay. So, okay, I just want to say we're at 2 hours and 30 minutes of the stream, basically.
Oh wow.
We definitely need to do an episode together where we are going into Batman even more. But at some point, I want to have a discussion about how we're like when we talk about how bad Batman and Robin is,
Oh,
we
for sure.
aren't addressing enough the intention with it being campy. and and the reason why we think like most of us think that it is so bad is because we completely forget that that's the point. To be
Well,
campy.
I would say Batman Forever is campy. Batman and Robin jumps off the deep end and goes well beyond campy into just ridiculous. And like
The
the
Batman
fact,
credit card scene. Yeah.
yeah, the Batman credit card scene, like the fact that
Come on, the butts, the
the fact that
nipples and chest plates.
every other line out of Arnold Schwarzenegger's mouth is a really bad ice pun. Um,
The intention was to sell toys.
Well, yeah, for sure. Why do you think their costumes got changed at the end of the movie? Like when they finally teamed back up together, they had those silver and black costumes so they could put more action figures out. I get that. But you can make movies with the intention of them being for selling toys and them still be good. It doesn't have to be, ridiculous. Like a lot of people fail to remember that the original He-Man cartoon, those were 30-minute ads for toys. The toys came out before the cartoon did. The cartoon was developed solely to sell the toys.
Yeah.
But if you go back and watch the original one, now you have to understand it's the 80s. But they still hold up.
I bought my parents all those toys.
Wait, you bought your parents the toys? Or are you saying that your parents bought you the toys? Because those are two very different stories, and one we would have to dive into.
If you're saying you got the toys for your parents,
yeah, we need to discuss that.
Love for it, but then took them. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah,
I mean, my parents.
Okay, I meant okay.
Yes,
the other one.
Gotcha.
I was gonna say if you meant the other way, I was gonna give you a link to the Zoom call and have you come into this call, and we were gonna discuss this at length. But no, yeah, it makes sense that your parents bought them for you.
So I've got another thought on the campiness and miscommunication with Batman and Robin as a film. When you cast an actor like George Clooney as Batman, people are immediately going to want to take it seriously. And if you don't market it well enough and communicate through the marketing that this is a joke of a movie, people are going to be confused.
Well, part of that problem is the late Joel Schumacher, although was diving into the campiness, he wanted the movie to be taken seriously. It's what he kept saying. And that's a problem. And that's where part of your disconnect comes, is because you don't make a campy movie to be taken seriously. I think George Clooney actually could have been a really good Batman.
What do you mean he wasn't that well respected back then? Oh my gosh.
Oh no, when Batman and Robin came out, no, he was already a respected actor. Hang on, let me look at his filmography.
Yeah, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the movie. Maybe it came after. I don't have my timeline straight on Clooney films because I'm not that big of a fan, but oh gosh, what's the role with the freaking tribal tattoos? That was probably after Batman and Robin.
Why are these not in order? This is bullshit.
I mean, Google adds the years at the bottom of them, but
he had Peacemaker, One Fine Day, The Thin Red Line.
I mean, he was big, but not what he is now.
Yeah.
Well, certainly not what he is now, but still, like, I would consider him...
Royal Toffee, thank you for the follow. You get a dancing penguin.
A majority of his roles before Batman and Robin were dramatic, serious roles.
Yeah, you got to remember, he also did Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I mean, that's a big, serious film. I'm totally kidding. Now that's campy, but that was campy done right, because that movie's meant to suck, but it's really.
I think we need to script an episode.
Oh, From Dusk Till Dawn. That was the other one I was trying to think of. From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes. I think at some point we should script an episode where we are talking just about how Hollywood and celebrity culture and awards in particular ruin actors for us. And the expectations that the standards that we hold them to after they become big ruin how we see them in movies.
Well, if you look up the statistics on how many people win an Oscar and then their very next movie is the biggest flop of their career, is astounding. Yeah. Like Jamie Foxx, he won for Ray. He won an Oscar for Ray.
Adrian Brody.
And then,
anytime he does a good movie or has an outstanding character role, the movie that follows is underwhelming. Same thing with Johnny Depp, with a lot of Johnny Depp's early stuff.
You want to know a great Adrian Brody role? He did a mini series for Houdini. And,
oh my god, with the History Channel.
Yes.
Okay.
That is so good.
Phenomenal.
So good.
Phenomenal. And some people complained that that because Adrian Brody does not look like Houdini, that kind of ruined it for them. Not me at all. I thought that was phenomenal.
I thought he was taller than what Houdini was, but I actually thought they did
different face shape, skinnier.
I think that's debatable.
Was a little, anyway. Love Adrian Brody.
A lot of people
Well,
fail to remember that cameras back then, there's that whole trope of the camera adds 10 pounds. That came because the way cameras were designed back in the day, back in Houdini's day, they literally did. Everybody looked swollen because of the way the lens was shaped. So he was said to be actually very skinny. And he was in shape.
Well,
he was a guy who was obsessed with his body.
He absolutely was. For a majority of his stunts too, they were reliant on his shape, his weight. But I'm talking about when you look at photos of him today, he does have significant more fat on his face than Adrian Brody does. Different nose shape as well.
Well, Adrian Brody will never be able to, unless he finds a role with a guy. His nose is unfortunately very distinct. So I understand the nose part, but like the facial, like I said, all those pictures where his face looks swollen, it's because of the lens. There are drawings of Houdini, and he's got a much skinnier face, like people who drew him as like he sat for a portrait. So that never took me out of it. Like, I thought he did such a great job. That was such a good series. That was so good. I recommend that to anybody who even has an inkling of who Houdini is.
And this is another thing that I love about Adrian Brody as an actor. He chooses roles because he thinks they're going to be fun. He goes for the stuff that he thinks he will enjoy. Who would have thought that he would have paired up with the History Channel to do a series like that after he has done a number of dramatic films and everything with Wes Anderson too. I love him with Wes Anderson. I think they're match.
Well, what about him doing Predators?
Oh my God! Yes,
and that movie is so good. I'm not a
Predator person, but
that movie is so good. That is one of the best Predator movies there was, and it was so out of character for him to do a movie like that. But
I'm going back to Robert Pattinson and how he didn't want to gain muscle weight. Adrian, in that, I mean, he did have to build up a bit of a body for that role, but he still is the wiry kind of a hero, and not the super buff, super macho
he wasn't
heroes that we're familiar with. I love it so much.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Now, as far as like the Robert Pattinson not wanting to gain, he didn't want to bulk up like Ben Affleck did, but he did work out really hard to get in shape, because like I said, he looks ripped. He just didn't want to add 25, 30 pounds of muscle, and I understand that especially on his frame.
I haven't been articulating well enough when I've talked about this. I touched on body dysmorphia for a bit, but seriously, our bodies change all the time. I can't stand how we are making a standard.
That was what I meant to bring up. There was another thing about Christopher Nolan I wanted to bring up, and Robert Pattinson brought me back to it, because he's in Tenet.
Which I have not seen.
Well, I won't ruin the twist, but I will say that you'll get the twist in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
And that's the problem with movies, that Christopher Nolan, he's this terrible at twist. And it's one thing when the twist is towards the end of the film, because you can accept the movie being really good. But when the twist is literally, you catch on in the very first part of the movie, Tenet is not a good film. It's not. And like I said, when your lead actor, your lead character, his name is protagonist, but every other character has a name. And they try to explain why his name is protagonist in the film with 2 or 3 throwaway lines, and it's terrible. The writing on that movie, like, I understand why he left Warner Brothers and is now with Universal Studios, because he was pissed over the whole putting the movies on HBO Max the same day they come out this year.
Yeah.
But Tenet is just not. It was not a good. That movie didn't fail because of that. The movie failed because it's not good. That movie.
Layer Cake did the unnamed protagonist well.
Yes, you can do it. You can do it well. There are a lot of movies that have done it.
Yeah.
You want to know one of the biggest genres to do it? Westerns. Westerns. A lot of times, the good guy, the lead character, never had a name.
It can be a great writing device.
Yeah.
But when it comes to film as a medium for storytelling specifically, literally every frame is designed for the audience. And if there is lack of direction, lack of specificity in that film, it's a major contributor into bad movies. So I don't really know why they named this character protagonist, but it immediately comes across to me as indecisiveness, lack of care, the lack of attention to detail. Like that's what I immediately want to attribute it to. So
It's one of those things that um the Tenet problem is the fact that you didn't have an unnamed protagonist. You had a guy whose name was protagonist.
no, that's what I am talking about.
But I mean,
You
like,
made
yeah,
it's
like
it's it's
they
a cop
didn't.
out for me.
Yeah, it's just like it's
I
like
don't know if we
like
have
how much
actors
sense
in the chat,
how
but
much sense does it make when you go to like you're on a mission and you go well, what's your name? Protagonist. Get out. What are you talking about? Go away. You're
so
stupid. Go.
I don't know if we
Like,
have any actors in the chat or if any of our viewers have done high school acting even, but at some point in your education, you are going to be given the assignment of writing a short scene for
yeah.
your class that you will be performing in.
Lily, I got to step out for just 1 second. You keep talking about that.
Yeah, you're fine. At some point, you will have this assignment, one way or another, where you will have to write your own scene, perform in that scene in front of your class. And it is a huge mistake when a student goes, I'm going to procrastinate on this assignment and maybe the circumstances of the scene are my circumstances right now in real life. My scene will be me struggling to write a scene for this class, except it won't be me. It will be a character. It's bullshit. So that's how I'm seeing uh the decision to name your protagonist. It is exactly that of being like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna wing it. Will this work?
My kitty was scratching at the door. Everybody say hi to my kitty. This is Wanda. Say
Hi, Wanda. Hi, Wanda.
Say hi, Wanda.
Hello.
Her sister Sylvie didn't want to come in.
I knocked my microphone down. I was so excited. No, I want to see more of Wanda. Show me Wanda. I can't.
Sorry, guys. Had to show off my pussy. All right.
That's what's called the 24-hour project. Okay, hold on. There is such a thing as the 24-hour film project, and that is not at all. I don't think that's what you're talking about when you mentioned the 24-hour project. But still, that's not a 24-hour project. That is a 1-hour project. Not even one. You know what? I hold myself to a very high writing standard. I could do a lot better with writing a scene if I only have 1 hour to write that scene. There's no excuse, really. It's just laziness, lack of care. Anywho,
I remember in high school we got the opportunity to write short stories scenes for theater class, and we actually performed. So it was like a group of short, like 1 or 2 page scenes. Mine was 3 pages because I'm long winded, but yeah, that was always fun to do. But like none of my characters had names because why they didn't need them. Like there's times when your characters don't even need names, but in a 2-hour long movie, it's a little bit harder to get away with, but you can do it and it can be done. But like I said, when you actually name the character protagonist, not like it wasn't in the credits as protagonist because he was the lead guy. Like that was legit his name. I'm like,
yes.
come
No,
on.
that's exactly what I talked about while you were gone. I mentioned how at some point all actors will be given the assignment where they have to write and act in their own scene, and a lot of students think that they're being cool, that they're being niche when they go meta, and their scene is them but not them struggling to write a scene for a class. It is disguised as being cool and a nice decision when it or a cool decision when it really is a cop out. And future, yes, the 24-hour theater project, 24-hour film project, both of those are different. Yeah, they are different from the 24-hour project that you were talking about. But yeah, it's a stupid decision is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that for sure. Um,
Dude, we're almost at 3 hours with this.
yeah, we are. We
This
are.
is
But
this is my problem with Vince. Like we're great paired together when we're doing the podcast, but we're the kinds of friends where we could talk for hours and hours and hours nonstop, and it's bad for my health. I cannot go another night staying up till 5 in the morning.
we're definitely not doing that, especially since
No, my voice is already gone as it is.
I for anybody who's a wrestling fan, we got WWE Crown Jewel tomorrow at noon, so I got to be up for that. So staying up till 5 a.m. not a good idea. So we definitely want to do that. But there was a couple of things I want to touch on. We have gone way away from the Batman trailer.
Yep. Typical.
But,
It's
yeah,
typical.
I'm racking my brain on how I'm going to edit this for YouTube. But I may just put the whole thing out there and say fuck it.
My mom, for those of you who don't know, my mom almost joined us for the podcast today. Not as a person here in the live stream, but she was just gonna sit with me in the room, and that definitely would have changed the dynamic of us because oh my god, she's got a contagious laugh, and we would not be running this late with our stream.
Probably not. But the one thing we didn't touch on was that there is another villain in this movie, and it's Penguin. And Colin Farrell is Penguin. And he's the guy in the car chase scene, but the look on Lily's face says it all. He is so unrecognizable. The makeup job they did on Colin Farrell is insane. And then he has like that New York, New Jersey accent.
Uh-huh.
Like hold on a minute there, sweetheart. Like he does like oh man. But I feel
I
like
need to rewatch the trailer.
yeah, the prosthetics are insane. I
Oh my
think that
gosh.
the whole penguin part will be in the beginning of the movie, kind of establishing Batman as the hero that he is. He'll be going after the penguin. We'll have that big car chase scene in the beginning, and then that'll kind of help establish. I almost feel like we won't get the title of the movie until in the trailer. You know how the camera's upside down because the car got flipped, and he's walking up
Mhm.
as Batman slowly, and then the title came out of that. I almost feel like they may do that as the actual title of the film.
Mm.
So it'll be like 5 or 10 minutes in the beginning of him hunting down the penguin in the iceberg lounge, and then the car chase, and then the title. So that could happen. But yeah, so we
Mhm.
do get, and this is a also again we're talking early times. So this is an Oswald Cobblepot who has not yet taken up the moniker of the Penguin, but he does own the iceberg lounge. The fight scene we see on the stairs where Batman's hitting guys with pipes and stuff, that's in the iceberg lounge.
Mhm.
We also got a great look at how his suit is bulletproof. He gets shot several times, one time with a machine gun several times, and he just takes it. So I think it's the best suit by far as practicality goes that we've gotten. But yeah, I think that we're gonna see. There was talk when this movie started that there was actually going to be 6 villains. That there was going to be a huge rogues gallery in this film, but it would be more of a we're just going to touch on them for later project, almost like the Penguin. Like he's not called the Penguin yet. He'll be in the beginning, and then he'll come back and do another movie. So there was talk of all these villains in it. Now, from what we've seen, it only looks like 2, not including Falcone and the Mob. It looks like the Penguin and the Riddler are right now the only 2. But
Mhm.
again, we don't know. This is the first trailer. The movie comes out in March, so
Mhm.
not that long away. So I'm excited. Yeah, at least he's not
Yeah.
Bullseye.
When I think of, oh gosh, so I have to decide whether or not I'm going to go on another tangent. I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
I'll bullet point it. I love
I'm
talking.
drinking a Raise energy drink. I'm full of life. Let's do this.
I
It's rainbow flavor. Tastes like Skittles in a can. So good. Go on.
more so in theater than there is in the realm of film or in the theater world. As opposed to a film world, there's more of a conversation on how theater is going to change. in the future, how it's changed so much because of this pandemic, and how we treat our actors, how we treat our workers, how we are presenting theater, because we're trying to shift to putting the stage on the screen, which is, I've got so many opinions about it, because I'm just like, why would you? It's supposed to be live theater, and now we're going to be streaming live. Anyway, so there's that conversation is happening more so in the theater world than it is the film world. But I still wonder about it. I still wonder, how is film going to change with technology in the future? And one thing that I personally would love to see is kind of the reverse, where there is more of a live theater aspect to film, that where it's kind of there's audience inclusive shows where audience members are following characters and walking around the set, or an actual building, garden, and whatnot, depending whatever story it is, where they are following the story and they have the ability to follow different characters at different times. With live theater, your perspective is completely different one night versus the next. Your perspective is different depending on which seat you sit in, because you are seeing a different story one night than you are the night before. So I would like,
real quick, as an example, would you say that maybe like a Rocky Horror Picture Show is similar to that, where the movie plays, but there's also a set out front and there's actors out there and the audience is interacting?
Rocky Horror is a completely different thing, because Rocky Horror started as live theater. And then when they produced the movie, it developed the cult following for the movie. So now,
I meant the layout is kind of what you're talking about.
This is what I'm saying, though. So when you watch Rocky Horror today, most likely you are not watching the Rocky Horror live show. You are watching the movie on a movie screen with other actors in front of the screen lip dubbing, or a modified version of the show where it is more about the connection between the characters and their energy and the audience, especially with the amount of heckling that is now ingrained in the Rocky Horror experience. But it's different than seeing the Rocky Horror musical. It is a show. So but I like your thinking here. So what I'm trying to get to is, I would absolutely love to see an approach to film that is more like how we experience video games today, where we can use multiple screens, we can choose the path that we follow. It's not really like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of perspective, where it is choose your own journey, but you have the ability to explore different characters, different scenes, if you want to, as opposed to there being one vision, one story that you cannot go in depth with, like, because when you go to see a movie today, what's on the screen is on the screen, and you can't do anything to change that or explore it further. So I am excited to see how film does change in the future with technology. Sorry, again, this is a really long tangent. Going back to having the potentially six villains in a Batman film, I immediately thought of the Lego Batman series, because you collect all the villains. Batman has to battle all the villains. Like, same with any Lego movie. I think like Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, one of my favorite games ever. So I thought of all of the villains being there at one point, and the struggle with having that many characters in one long action sequence is that you cannot possibly go into as much detail with each character, their fighting style, who it is that they are battling, because it's all happening at once, and you are fighting for time. Time is money. How do you carry the energy of an action sequence and not bore your audience, and also just get to the point? Who wins, who loses, who's hurt permanently, everything. So anyway, I love the idea of seeing six villains in a Batman movie, because I love all of the Batman. Oh my God, I love Batman villains so freaking much. Arkham Asylum, phenomenal. Just so yeah. Again, I said it was going to be a long tangent, and it is.
Well, I think also what Matt Reeves is doing is that the reason for the 6 in the first film is not so much that all of their stories will play out in this film. It's more of like teasing the next 2 films. So instead of having, you just have like, you have the Riddler in this one and maybe a side villain in the Penguin, you tease all of them, and so that you know what Batman's going up against in the next one and in the next one. I think that's what he might be doing. But there's also something going on with movies. There's a new thing called Cinerama in theaters. I don't know if you've seen this.
I have not, but I know
It
of
is
it.
it's a 146 degree curved screen. And so what it
Wait.
is,
So are you saying just a curved screen, like a screen panel that's like a cylinder, or are you talking about a dome theater?
no, it's not like an IMAX dome theater. What it is, it's a
Okay.
giant screen, and it basically puts the movie in what is essentially like 3 panels. But like, let's say you're in a car chase scene, so you're driving this way, and normally in a movie you would just see looking out the windshield. If say the shot's coming from inside the car,
Uh-huh.
you're just looking out the windshield. Now you can also look out the driver and the passenger window because it's shot in a more open way. You add that to what's called 4DX, which is the motion seats. So they're trying to make it, I guess, as close to, like somebody mentioned, VR. It's as close to VR without putting on a VR headset.
Yeah.
So it's slightly more interactive. It's not technically interactive because you can't act back, but it's supposed to engulf you in the movie versus just watching a movie. It's to where you're like, it's part of the movie. I don't know how well this is going to work. It's something new. I remember they did that movie called Hardcore Henry, which is shot 100% from the first person perspective of the lead character, and it's not done well because when you run, your mind, even though your body is shaking, your mind anticipates that and fixes it so everything looks smooth as you're running. Cameras don't do that. So everything was like, it was sickening to watch that movie in a theater. Like, I was almost going to throw up. And
So that did not work because they did not have cameras with a
exactly.
gyroscope in it to prevent that shakingness or
But
rigging.
well,
So
I was
this
gonna
is what I
say,
want to touch on really quickly. It is you could certainly blame technology for like being the source of all issues, like of disconnect with an audience and like how you present a film, but you could have it really just comes down to style and how much you are committing to grounding your audience in the film beforehand. And I mentioned suspension of disbelief all the time. This is exactly it. It is when a person who has never seen Shakespeare before and they're watching Hamlet for the first time live, the first 10 minutes they're not going to know what the fuck is going on because they don't speak the language, because they're unfamiliar with the story. That is with every film. It is about the willingness of the audience and how much the production has committed to immersing them in the world of that story.
yeah. Well, I'll touch on 2 things. One, technology wise, I do think they've actually gotten to a better camera system. If you watch the behind the scenes on Free Guy, they talk a lot about these new cameras, and that's why that movie works, because it is shot, even though it's not shot from Guy's perspective, it is shot from a video game perspective, and there's a much better gyroscopic version. Also, Tao brings up something interesting. The 6 villain setup runs the risk of acting like the first movie is just a trailer for the next movies. This happens a lot. Back to the Future 2 is really nothing more than a glorified trailer for Back to the Future 3. But if you do it correctly and you learn from the mistakes of the past, which Matt Reeves is a true student of film, you can do it in a way that it doesn't feel like you're just setting up the next films, but you're telling a complete story in the first one while also baiting people to come back for the next one. So instead of it just being a 2-hour, or in this case, possibly 3-hour long trailer, it's a 3-hour long detective noir story that leaves it open, and you want more and you're getting more. And the expectation is laid, because there are sometimes when a movie gets made where they don't do a good job of laying the expectation of wanting to come back. And then the sequel fails because you didn't set the expectation to come back. Then there are movies that are so confident that there's going to be a sequel that they blatantly set up a sequel. The best example that I can think of is Super Mario Brothers, where at the end of that horrific film, which, by the way, we talked about movies that you go back and watch. I watch Super Mario Brothers all the time. It's a terrible movie, but there's a weird, almost masochistic or sadist. I forgot which is which. There's a sadomasochistic reason behind, like, it's almost like torture, but in, like, I don't know. But that movie,
Sure.
like, smacks you over the head with, we're going to do a sequel at the end of that film. And yet it was so poorly received because it is a terrible movie that it never got the sequel.
Personally, I feel that cliffhangers are not used enough.
They're not used correctly. I would say that. I think a lot of times they're not used correctly. It's either far too blatant of a cliffhanger or far too subtle. Like, it's finding that perfect
not
gray
correctly,
area.
but effectively.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
I gotcha.
Isn't that saying the same thing? If you use a cliffhanger correctly, then it's an effective cliffhanger.
It could be used correctly, but it just doesn't land with the audience.
If you use an effective cliffhanger, then you used it correctly. I feel like I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like we are saying the same thing. I can't believe that I'm debating. I gotta say this. I get triggered all the time when people just want to debate semantics with me. So I hope in the future with this podcast, we are not doing this frequently where we are just debating semantics. But this moment was cute.
I now have a new fun game to play with Lily.
This moment was cute. God, I need to remind myself to not reveal personal things about myself to you. It's just more for you to draw.
I'm literally taking notes. No,
I'm kidding. I love instant death. It's all good.
At the same time, I argue semantics a lot too. But that was one of those ones I was like, I had to play it out in my head because I'm like, did I say that? Was I incorrect in the way I worded that? Because I was like, could they? No, I don't think I. Like, I had to play that out in my head. I'm like, But anyways, like, a lot of times cliffhangers, they're either far too subtle or they're far too beat you over the head with it. There are films who find that perfect gray area. Now, this is what I'm talking about with these Batman movies. If he does have 6 villains and they're just kind of teased and done away, like, I think even the cliffhanger at the end of Batman Begins with the Joker card, I think it was the perfect cliffhanger because Christopher Nolan wasn't sure he was even going to come back for a second one. So it was subtle enough that you didn't have to you didn't have to return. He wasn't 100% certain he was going to do a second movie.
Okay, here's the thing though. I do not see that as a cliffhanger. I see that as being intentionally open-ended. Okay.
Well, that's what I mean by a subtle cliffhanger. Because if you do get a sequel, you know that the sequel is going to be based around the Joker. You know that because that was what they told you at the end of the film. But if they don't make it,
well, it didn't have to be. It didn't have to. Well, I mean, it's heavily implied. I get what you're saying. It's heavily implied.
Here's the thing: had Christopher Nolan made a second Batman film and the Joker's not even brought up once after that ending from the first one,
there's a difference between him being brought up in the storyline in general and the plot being centered around the Joker. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you had made a second movie, because what the thing is, it's the line that was said when he hands him the card and what Jim Gordon says to him about this guy doing this. It is a setup for your next villain, because if Batman's not pursuing this psycho, which that's the thing in the beginning of Dark Knight, he's just like, oh, he's just I'll get to him when I get to him. That was kind of the play in the beginning. Was you realize that, no, he's got to focus on him. Like, that was kind of it is a cliffhanger in a sense, but it's one of those cliffhangers where it's subtle enough that if they decide not to make a second film for whatever reason, you're okay with it. Like, it would have been like, oh, it would have been cool to see, but later on, maybe somebody else will do it later on down the road.
Yeah.
But then you have cliffhangers that smack you over the head, like Super Mario Brothers, where she kicks in the door and like, oh, we got to go back and da da da. Or like Back to the Future Part 2, where it literally ends with him in the old, the whole thing. And there's a trailer. When I talk about Back to the Future 2 being a trailer for Back to the Future 3, the end credits is literally the trailer for Back to the Future 3. It's literally a trailer. So that's a little bit over the top as far as a cliffhanger goes. So it's about finding that subtle ground. I think Matt Reeves can do it, but it's a slippery slope and he could fail. But yeah, well, Batman and Robin escaped the dastardly plans of Mr. Freeze. That was the whole Batman 66 series was cliffhangers every commercial. Like, just stay tuned in or come back,
Yeah.
whatever. But there's
I
there's ways to do it, and there's a gray area, and it's a bigger gray area than people think.
we could do a whole series on deep diving with writing devices and how we understand these tropes, these kinds of stories, like analyzing themes and style and what, like the two of us, we could talk about this forever, and how it is that we personally define these terms as opposed to how we see them in Hollywood, other cinema, so.
Yeah. There's a lot that could be done on that, and you could definitely talk for hours upon hours on that as well. Um, in a whole, that's not the way to say that. As a whole, I do think, because we got mostly just teasers out of DC Fandome, the only one that we can really for certain look at and anticipate what's really going to happen beyond just our own expectations is the Batman. And I think that
What?
even what
I wasn't gonna say that. Honestly, the Batman was. I mean, I have to rewatch the trailer, but I saw way more in uh oh my god, I saw more in the trailer for Shazam than I did
well, here's the key
in
to that. This is what I mean.
Batman. We're just inferring a lot more about the Batman trailer because we are more familiar with him as a character.
Oh no, I'm vastly familiar with Shazam. But here's my point. Shazam is still shooting. They're not even done with production yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. It's like it's so far out.
All right.
And like we don't know the actual story at all. We have an idea now with this new trailer from Batman what the story is going to be.
Okay.
We have no idea what the actual story for Shazam is going to be. You know that Sinbad has a big cameo in that movie, and we didn't even see anything about it.
What I was trying to say is that this whole time we've been predicting, we've been talking about Batman, and it's again making
keyword predicting. That's all we can do now.
I said inferring about the Batman trailer, and still, like, we really don't know what the significance of these villains is going to be, how they're going to be portrayed, how that's going to change Batman and his development. That's why I said that I saw more in Shazam, because I was like, we know it's going to be far more lighthearted. We're not really going to be deep diving into the psychology of these characters. It's a lot more straightforward of a hero film than.
But actually, we may be. Like, that's the thing, is that from some of the things they've talked about in the Shazam movie is that they're going to focus on the family dynamic as well as how these people are dealing with now having powers. So, but there's a lot, but we don't know nearly as much. We know more about Batman because it's coming out soon. It's an actual trailer with an actual story beat. The rumor about the 6 villains may not even be true, so we don't know about that. But we also know that we're going to be getting... See, like, look at the comments. Some people didn't even know a new Shazam movie was coming. That was kind of my point. Like, we didn't get a lot of information to infer from Shazam, other than we know it's going to be more lighthearted. But you could have inferred that just from them saying, "Hey, we're going to make a sequel," because the first movie's more lighthearted, so you can actually infer from that. So I just only one that we got, like I said, any kind of like real true story beats from is the Batman. We had to infer a ton about the Flash. We have to infer a ton about Shazam, because there's not even been a synopsis released for these films. At least a synopsis for Batman has come out. So because it's coming out in March. DC, like, it just the timing of the fandom kind of sucked in a way, because a lot of these movies are just starting. Like I said, we heard about Blue Beetle, we heard about Batgirl, but the best they could do was show us was one piece of concept art, because they haven't even started production. In fact, the script isn't 100% finished on Batgirl. Now, I did write a story late last night of news that didn't even come from DC Fandome. This is what I mean by bad timing. because just 2 days ago, J.K. Simmons signed on to play Jim Gordon again in the Batgirl movie. That's huge. I love that. And this goes back to when Leslie Grace first got cast about 6 months ago. She immediately said, I would love it if J.K. Simmons returned as Jim Gordon. I want him to be my dad.
Mm.
And she's been constantly like, I want to learn from him. I want to be on set with him. I want him to please be my dad. Like, she's tweeted it out about, like, J.K. Simmons, please be my dad. So the fact that he got signed just a day or two ago to play it again is going to be great.
Mm.
Now, the Sinbad making a cameo thing actually comes from DC Fandome 2020, where they did a Zoom call with the cast and Sinbad popped in, and it deals with the whole Mandela effect of Sinbad being in a movie called Shazam in the 80s or 90s that never actually happened. So they're going to make fun of that, and they're going to have a cameo from Sinbad in that movie. So we know that much. But yes, the Batgirl movie's happening. It's going to be on HBO Max, as is the Blue Beetle movie. So we did get some information. If you have 4 hours to kill, go back and watch the DC Fandome. There's quite a bit you can skip. There was stuff we didn't touch on, like the whole, mainly because I don't want to start any controversy, but there was the whole that Superman's motto has changed. His son, Jonathan Kent, has come out as bisexual, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There was stuff about an Aquaman animated series, which is one of those weird, like, Adult Swim style comedies. There is, they teased Harley Quinn season 3, the animated series. There's also a movie, and I don't remember what superhero it is, but it's going to be the first ever fully CGI DC film. So that'll be interesting as well. There was a lot of stuff. There's a bunch of animated stuff coming out. There's a new Batman animated series coming out, and it's coming from Bruce Timm, the guy who created the first Batman animated series. But because it'll be on HBO Max, they can be a little more adult with it, a little bit darker than what the original one was. So that's interesting. There's a lot that came out of it, but a lot of it's just we're going to do this, and that's all they could tell us because it's so far out in time that they're not even, some of these things weren't even in pre-production yet. So it was kind of a weird timing for DC Fandom. And the only thing we could, like I said, the Batman movie is the only one that's actually like coming out soon. So that's the only one they really like can talk about without spoilers, because other stuff they're still writing it. Like the Shazam movie, apparently they're right now in the middle of filming, but they're also rewriting the script. So like, what do you do? Like, it's like, you know,
Which I mean, I don't think I have the credibility really to talk on this because I've never been in a production where the script was still being finalized as they were filming. But that's something that at heart I disagree with because I'm the kind of artist where you solidify your vision, you solidify your art before you make it.
well, let me talk on that real quick. As somebody who has worked in film, it's actually very common in Hollywood, and I would say that 99% of
Finding
stuff,
money.
it's not just about money. It's the fact that they do have a quote unquote finalized script when they start filming. But what happens is as they begin to film and the actors are taking the characters in a certain way and the cinematography and then the state of the world, they all of a sudden like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we ought to, now that we're filming this, now we're doing this in real life, wouldn't it be better if we go this direction instead? So they do change the script. It happens, I would say, in 90% of film productions. While they have a quote unquote finalized script, they end up changing it mid shoot because they realize that it's better to go in a different direction, or we need to make changes, or they leave it open for improv on certain, because certain actors, it's better to let them just run wild. Like Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds, you let run wild.
This is the same thing as workshopping theater. The difference is that when you workshop theater, when you have test audiences or performances at some space that you are paying for, it's live. Most people are going to see it once and not revisit it. Whereas with a movie, you do not have that freedom. Like it's you could have someone watch that movie once and never return to it again. and workshop and test it in your own studio.
Mm-hmm.
But it is supposed to be one final product that will be the same thing forever for people to return to. You can get away with it more with theater as a show evolves, such as Dear Evan Hansen, as it was workshopped on and off Broadway before it was finally put on Broadway. So yeah, you could just get away with it more with live theater than you can film, because
Well, I mean,
everything.
not necessarily, because I would say that in film, because again, a lot of times movies will get changed and reshot after a test screening, and they'll be like, "Oh, this didn't work,"
I think
so they
it's more
reshoot it.
common for what we see more though is movies having different edit edited versions. There we go. It's a different way to interpret that story with with how you present the information that was, or the story that was shot.
Well, that's part of it too. Yeah, editing is a big part. You can really change a movie based on the edit. But like,
What I'm really talking about though is can you imagine a studio controlling every part of movie for 3, 4, 5 years before it was finished and released? Actors who were cast to reshoot it over and over and over again as the story has changed as they develop these characters and grow into them.
how many examples do you want
Of a movie
of a
that
yep
took
of
several
exactly
years.
of exactly what you just said? The last one that I can think of
Mm.
that was most egregious in that way is X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Wow. Well, that movie was terrible, so
Yeah, it didn't work out, but most times it doesn't. And the thing
that
is,
was all pointless then.
what you're talking about, 9 times out of
Proving
10,
my point. Like, you should have a vision, a finalized vision before you make it.
9 times out of 10, when the studio gets involved and they control it, it doesn't work out. Look at Amazing Spider-Man 2. That happened
Mm.
there. Look at the original version of Superman 2 when the studio stepped in, fired Richard Donner, and brought in Richard Lester. That movie went to shit.
Mm.
But there are times when the director and the writer realize that it needs to go a different direction and they change it. A great example of that would be Ant-Man.
Mm.
And that's where they actually changed. They let go of Edgar Wright because they realized it wasn't going the direction they wanted. They brought in Peyton Reed, and you got a great movie. I love Ant-Man. That's another one I go back and watch. Um,
So, Tia,
so
this is what I'm saying. Snyder Cut, mostly editing. How much of that did they actually have to reshoot to produce the Snyder Cut?
okay, well that's
And
okay.
and
Let
and
me explain that one. Let me explain that one because when Zack Snyder walked away, Slash was let go. It's because his daughter had killed herself. The film was almost pretty much done. They brought in Josh Whedon, who rewrote the script and reshot a bunch of the movie. When Zack Snyder finally got to do his cut, his stuff was already shot because, like I said, the movie was just about done. When they came in to do quote unquote reshoots, it was just for scenes that, like, because it happens all the time. Like every movie does reshoots because it didn't print right. We got to redo it, or the lighting's off or whatever. We got to redo it, or we need a better coverage. That kind of thing. That's all he was doing.
yeah.
So his movie was already done 99% when he left the project. They brought in Whedon, who rewrote the script and then reshot 2/3 of the movie.
So it's not a conversation of whether or not this is being done frequently in cinema. It's whether or not it's being done successfully. And again, that's why I said there's more freedom with it, and it's done a lot more. We see it a lot more with live theaters because it has a direct relationship with the audience. You can have audience members that show up and never see it again, but you're getting their feedback. Whereas with Hollywood, you want more control over that final product.
Well, I mean, wouldn't in theater it's the same. It's honestly, doesn't it come down to the same thing, because the final product is what the final show is that runs. So yes, you have test audiences, you have audiences that see early renditions of it, but at the end of the day, like let's say Cats or Phantom of the Opera or anything, these there is a final product that ends up running that becomes the version that most people know. It's the same as a movie.
Yes and no, because when you make a show, um oh my gosh,
Yes,
when
the
you
nightmare scene was the bulk of the reshoots feature. Yes.
put a show on Broadway, when you have a show, when you purchase space in, like, physical space in a building for that show to be performed in, and that space only for months on end to fill a season, um, that is, yes, a final product, but you are going to have different casts. You at some point you might have different costumes. You also have changes that will come when there is a touring cast. So again, film, a movie is one product, one image. Theater, it's live. It's changing in the sense where you have a different energy every night, and having a swing, or a swing, stepping in for a role when your lead actor gets sick or has their paid time off, it changes it.
Okay, I get what you mean by that. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I get what you mean. Because yeah, in the film, there's obviously, unless you just redo the movie, it's not going to be any different. Like, I get what you mean. Like a Star is Born is a great example. That movie's been remade 3 times now, 4 times now.
I think four.
So that's where you get different versions of it. But for the most part, you're talking about, yeah. So I get what you mean by that. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense.
Mm.
But yeah, in Hollywood, though, like I said, while they have a quote unquote finalized script when they start production, they do keep it pretty fluid because, like I said, as they build it and they see it coming to life, they may realize that, oh, what we had planned now doesn't work, or this would work better. So that's why, like, you can only speculate what's going to happen in Shazam because they're only 25% into production, maybe 50%, maybe. The
Yeah.
Flash is literally at 25%. The fact that they got what they showed us is insane. Because if you notice, it didn't look like post production. Like, it looked finalized. Like, the color grading, the light, like everything, it looked finished. Like, it looked like what you see in a theater. So the fact that they took their time to, like, hey, we've only shot so much, but let's at least give them something, was pretty cool. But it also, to me, feels like instead of you showing us that, take that time and put it back into shooting more of the movie and getting it done. Instead, they tend to take the time out to, like, to do that for DC Fandome. That's why I said the timing of DC Fandome kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Just in terms of where everything is at production wise, because we're just now getting back to productions going back to full time, back to, everybody being vaccinated, the whole nine. There's some semblance of normal is just now starting to get back. So, hold on a second. How did I lose internet? Did we disconnect?
It's buffering for us.
Oh,
We're back.
okay.
I think.
That was weird.
Hey, we're back. Sorry. Internet issues.
Which was weird. I saw you freeze on your screen for a second, but the fact that it buffered because it's not buffering here, but it buffered on Twitch was weird. That was weird. All right. Sorry about that. That was odd.
I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted.
Do you know why I'm not exhausted, Lily?
Why?
Because I have Ray's Energy Rainbow. That's right, Ray's Energy Rainbow, the best energy drink on the market. In fact, I'll put the link now for you can get 15% off your first order. Right there in chat. 15% off Ray's Energy. Tastes great. No aftertaste. No hangover. No side effects. Just good times. And it tastes like Skittles in a can. This flavor does. All their flavors are great. They have a watermelon ice one that's great. They got a bunch of great ones. It's really good. And they come out with new ones all the time. So I'm wide the fuck awake.
Mail me some for next time.
I'm going to have to. Yeah, I'm going to send you. I am going to send you some. I'll send you some.
Or at least.
Thank you on the segue.
Wait.
Yeah, we are sponsored now. That is my link in the chat there. We are sponsored by Ray's Energy. That is the first step to us growing. They've been with us actually from the beginning, but I haven't been able to really push it until I really got it down.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, Ray's Energy. But yeah, bro, this has been so much fun. But we seriously need to stay on track. Like, I love these conversations, but oh my god, the fact that we could talk on hours at length about this.
Yeah, unfortunately, Lily and I have done this ad nauseum sometimes. We'll end a podcast, everything's great. We signed
We're
everything
gonna have
off.
to change our streaming date to Friday or Saturday because as a student, I can't function like this anymore.
Well, you know what? We'll start putting feelers out there now. If you guys would prefer us to stream the podcast on Fridays or Saturdays, let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Wednesdays have been great, mainly because a lot of the Disney Plus stuff comes out on Wednesday, so we can talk about it right away. And if you want us, what we could do is we could do a shortened podcast on Wednesdays, really keep the time down, and we can do a secondary one for subscribers on Fridays and Saturdays. So that's always something we can do too. I'm all about, the more I'm on, like I said, I'm gonna start gaming. The more we're on here, the better. Because we really do want to grow this into something that we're giving you guys what you want. Because again, this isn't just our podcast. It is your podcast. It is your channel. It is your lifeblood to all things geek, through us. And that's
and you make us better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as Lily falls asleep, I will if not next week, the week after, I will send you some Raise energy. That way you have it.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man.
I'll go through the different flavors. We'll find out a good flavor, or maybe I'll just get you like a sample 12-pack. That's good.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. There's good stuff. Which, by the way, also when you go to Raise Energy, let me throw this out there as more of an ad. Not only can you use that 15% off code in that link, they have a lot of specials like free t-shirts and free hats when you order so much. They also have like powder drinks where you can like buy the powder and put it in your own water. So if you don't want to keep the cans in your fridge or whatever, you want to take it on the go, it's a lot easier. They also have they have different ones. They have like a hyper sleep one, which is obviously the opposite of an energy drink. So it's to help you fall asleep better. Which I'm actually going to try out tomorrow. I just got mine in, so I'll be trying that out because I have trouble sleeping. I have insomnia. So hopefully this is something that might help. Because I've done the melatonin stuff. I've done actual prescription pills, and nothing works. So hopefully, considering that energy drinks have never worked for me before either, and these actually work. Which, by the way, 0 sugar, 0 dyes, and electrolytes.
That's awesome.
And BCAA aminos. Like, legit, this is good stuff. Offers focus, energy, electrolytes, and hydration.
Yeah.
This is really good stuff. I don't back a product, and I don't let a product back me that I don't appreciate and use. I'm not an energy person. Like 5 Hour Energy and Red Bull and all that crap. They're gross. They taste like pennies. This tastes great.
Speaking of which, I tried Red Bull for the first time this year. That video is still up on TikTok. I think we need to play that on the channel at some point because my reaction to Red Bull, not great. I mean, it's funny to watch. I do not like it.
Well, also, a lot of them are like, they make you feel panicky. Like it's the wrong type of energy. This one, I just feel awake. I feel ready to go.
I'm hyped up about this.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have Raise Energy with us. It's under Rep Sports. That's their main site. They have clothes, workout equipment, pre-workout stuff, creatine. Like it's a big workout brand that's just really popping off. You can find them at GNC, vitamin shops, as well as online. And I'm all about it. So definitely use that link that helps us out. Get you 15% off. And you can still get all the little bonus stuff they do every day. So you can get a free shirt if you order so much. You can get a free hat if you order so much. So that product code does not stop you from getting their other deals as well. In fact, I think White Peach is one of their new flavors. I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of good ones, so that's good.
Anywho.
Yeah, I have no idea how I'm gonna cut this up for YouTube. But let me throw this out there to you guys that are still in chat. We still got 8 people hanging out. Let me throw this out there to you. Instead of me putting the full podcast that we do here on Twitch that you guys are so graciously sticking around for, what if I just cut them up into clips and segments and put those on YouTube? And instead of putting them
How
out.
would you do with how we've been taking these conversations though? How would you do
Well,
that?
it's going to be a little
I
bit
mean,
more.
like small anecdotes, yeah, but hey,
It'll be a little
it
bit
takes
more
me
work
a
for
while
me,
to go
but
full circle.
yeah. But I mean, like, I could put the part where we talk about Black Adam up. I can put the part where we talk about the Flash up. I could put the Batman part would be obviously longer because I would have to make that longer because it would be a tirade where we went off subject and came back to it, but it would still be a clip, just a longer clip. Now they would go up on Fridays instead of Thursdays at noon because I need time to edit them together. So that would be how I spend my Thursdays. But Monster says, I don't know. I don't watch the YouTube one. That would probably track better on their algorithms. Thank you, Future.
Yes,
Well, that's the great thing about Twitch too, is that we do have it to where you can go back and watch these if you wanted to go back and watch them. They're always on VOD. Now, when we get to our affiliate level and you start subscribing, those who actually subscribe at $4.99 a month will have full VOD access as well. But then I can do clips and highlights on Twitch. I can do clips and highlights on YouTube. I think breaking it down, because right now like, we're over 3.5 hours. We're at 3.5 hours. If I put the whole thing on YouTube, that's not going to play well for the algorithm. There are plenty of podcasts out there that do their full 3-hour podcast, but they also have a built-in audience from before. Yeah, so you'd lose people about exactly. So I think what I'll do is I'll break them up. So I was planning on next week starting the Fridays, but I think I'll start this week, and I'll start with this episode because it's kind of forcing me to. I don't really have much of a choice. I'm going to have to edit it together. So after Crown Jewel tomorrow, Future, I will get in here. I will edit it together, make a bunch of clips, and post those every hour on the hour from noon on through Friday because I'll probably get 4 or 5 clips out of this, and I don't have to put the full episode up.
Don't forget that Vince and I are both on TikTok and Instagram, and you can always reach out to either of us on those apps and let us know your thoughts on these episodes, what it is that you would like to see in the future. You could absolutely put those comments in on YouTube as well. And eventually, one day when we have our Patreon and we are more connected with the people who, or with our subscribers, we can work more one-on-one with you pretty much in developing the show more and producing content that you would like to see. So please feel free to reach out to either of us. All feedback is greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
I have yet to post on Instagram though.
Yeah, you do need to get on that. Yes, please subscribe to the YouTube. That would be greatly appreciated. It helps us out a lot as well. See, on YouTube, the problem is you have to get to 1,000 subscribers. On Twitch, it's 50, so it's a lot easier to use in here. Plus, I just like that I can actually interact with you guys. I love that because this is about you guys. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Edge match too. I want to see that Edge match coming up. Edge and Seth Rollins and Hell in a Cell. So yes, whatever feedback you guys have, you can hit us up here on Twitch. You can hit us up on YouTube, my TikTok and Instagram. They're all the links, by the way, are in Twitch. You can find the links right there next to the description for both mine and Lily's. I'm pointing at my monitor like you guys can see what the hell I'm pointing at. But yes, so any ideas you have, we might even start, like when we get subscribers on Twitch, we might start a Discord. That's a subscribers only Discord. So you'll impact what we talk about as well. We'll throw out ideas and polls. What do you want us to talk about next week? What do you want us to discuss? You know, we'll do giveaways. We'll do, you know, all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff coming.
On merch.
Yeah, we're going to work on merch. All kinds of stuff. I'm actually going to work on getting a new logo for us. Again, so you see like right now on the screen, it says every Thursday at noon. I will tomorrow make a whole new layout. So starting next week, you'll see it'll say every Friday, or I might even take that off and we'll just put, you check YouTube for clips or something. I'll figure it out. We'll get it all done. We've been making changes as we go, and we're going to keep to grow and keep continuing to evolve so that we give you guys the best show you can get, because that's the point of this. There's so many podcasts out there that are just 2 or 3 people that are almost gatekeeping at this point because they've been in it for 30, 40 years and they know everything about everything. And we wanted to give a perspective of people on every end of the spectrum. We wanted to offer something where you have people who don't know a lot about the comics or don't know a lot about wrestling, which is why I want to do a wrestling podcast. You know, that kind of stuff. I want to be able to give it to where everybody's involved and that everybody has a voice. So that is the whole point of this. So,
Vince and I can just talk and do our own tangents anytime.
Yeah.
This is about you all. and what you would like to see in the future. So,
And I know that a lot of times recently it's only been one geek and one noob. Again, there's a lot of changes coming. So we will get to our namesake at some point on a full-time basis. And we will hopefully grow in a way that helps you guys and makes you guys feel good. Yeah, I'm jazzed about the wrestling podcast too, and I'll get with you later on that future. And
I would like to see the baby. You don't know that TikTok?
no.
I would like to see the baby. It's a audio clip from one of the Mandalorian episodes where what's his face wants to see Grogu, Baby Yoda.
Oh, okay. I have not seen that TikTok.
A lot of people are pairing audio with videos about their cute pets and whatnot. By the way, I think we need to feature Wanda a lot more on TikTok and
Yeah, I probably should. I need to get Sylvie in here too. Sylvie's a little more shy, but I'll get them both on. I'll get them both on Twitch, and I'll start maybe bringing them on to TikTok too. I need to get more proficient at doing TikToks. Not proficient. That's not the word. More active, I think maybe. But
the algorithm favors posting frequently. I hate it too.
yeah, it's weird to me. Like I don't understand TikTok because I love Straw Hat Goofy to death, but how did that guy get 2 million followers, and I'm at 4,000? We've been on the platform the same amount of time, and we do the same thing. And it's just weird, like who gets pushed and who doesn't, and I don't know, it's weird.
Here's to growing.
No, I've not seen that TikTok. I did not get that joke. And like, now that you said Mandalorian, I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, I get it. Like it was one of those things like what? But
social media burnout is legit, and I mean it's talked about, it's not talked about enough. And I think it's ridiculous how all of these different social media apps have some way of supporting their creators and addressing how to deal with burnout, because it's a whole lot of show and bullshit. So take care of you. If you know what works for you and your mental health and your energy, do it. It's different when you make a profession out of being an online personality.
It is.
But
and the thing is, I have the time. Like I really do have the time to focus on it, and I just don't because the burnout's real. Like unlike Lily, who is a full-time student, I'm legit retired, guys. Like I sit at home. Like granted, I am remodeling my house, but like I have time. It's just like it's just weird how like who gets pushed and who, like the algorithm doesn't make any sense because like they said, oh, post frequently. Well, I posted like 24 videos in like a 3-day span.
They mean like twice a day. I used to post twice a day. Most of those videos are not on my page anymore because I didn't like them, and there wasn't much to them. You didn't really even get to see my personality through those videos. So my goal for myself in posting is just to have fun and do stuff that in some way is meaningful to me, because I'm not an online personality really yet. I don't make money. This is not a job. So I dictate my work. And
do you know the only reason I want my TikTok to grow? The only reason is so that I can go to premieres, so that there's a reason to like, because even with Screen Geek, which by the way, everybody go to screengeek.net for the up-to-date news on everything going on in the comic book movie world. We're still growing as a website. So we're not at comicbook.com level. We get press access, but not as much as most. But these influencers who don't work in the industry, they just happen to have 2 million followers, are getting to go to premieres and stuff like that. And so the only reason I want my TikTok to grow is because it is the easiest platform to grow on. Instagram is so hard nowadays. Like I only want it to grow so that we can start going to like premieres and getting more access for this podcast so that we can give it back to everybody else. So, it's just it's just it's that's the only reason I want my TikTok to grow. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even care. TikTok is just another means of getting this podcast and this brand up. Because this is where my heart lies, is talking with you guys, it's interacting with you guys, it's getting this stuff out there and getting to discuss these things. This is where my heart lies. TikTok is a short term or short form. It's hard to do that. Like the amount of times I have to have I got to do 14 videos on one subject because I'm commenting with somebody comments and I got to answer their comment and blah blah blah. It's irritating. Like I'd rather just do it like this where you guys can comment in real time, do that. So, and plus, you guys are my only friends. You guys are my only friends. You're my only friend.
Yeah, no pressure. No pressure. All right, everyone. I think that's our cue to dip out for the night.
Yeah, thank you guys so very much for sticking out with us for 3.5 hours, staying engaged, because again, this is all for you guys and giving you guys a platform along with us.
So much fun.
Thank you so much. Again, I'll get this clipped up and edited, and we'll have it up on YouTube in clips if you want to go back and visit anything or make comments afterwards. Also, keep your eye out for more things coming, and we will see you guys next week.
Take care. Thanks for joining. Thanks for all the follows.
Dancing penguins. Bye, guys.